Lucas had no idea when he'd finally fallen asleep. In his dream, he was piloting a Jaeger, gypsy danger from Pacific Rim, locked in a city-leveling brawl with Godzilla. He was halfway through prying open a monster's jaws when he suddenly woke up. He blinked his eyes open, the room already bathed in bright morning light. The faint sound of birdsong drifted in from outside. Sunlight streamed through the window, so sharp it forced him to squint. He tried to sit up but found his arm pinned. Looking down, he saw Lily still asleep in his arms, nestled against him. From this angle, he had a perfect view of her delicate collarbones. She was curled up against his shoulder, her long hair fanned out across the bed in a messy, beautiful tangle. Her chest rose and fell with the steady rhythm of her breathing, a picture of heart-wrenching vulnerability. Lily had stayed over a few times now, but this was the first time Lucas had ever woken up to this sight. To open your eyes and find this girl, so utterly unguarded and beautiful, sleeping in your arms. This felt more surreal than fighting giant monsters. For a second, Lucas wondered if this was the dream. He'd seen posts online claiming that waking up next to someone was infinitely more romantic than just sleeping with them. He'd never bought it. Now he was a believer. There were no words for the profound warmth of waking up to find the person you loved right there, beside you. Wait a minute. This little dork was actually sleeping in with him. The novelty of it was almost too much. He leaned in closer, wanting to study her sleeping face. A small, smug thought crossed his mind. He'd finally managed to wake up before Lily for once. That is, until he saw her long, curled eyelashes flutter. Well, damn. She was faking it. You've been awake for a while, haven't you? He whispered. Her eyelids squeezed tighter, but she didn't answer. Can I kiss you? I haven't brushed my teeth, you know. Still no response. Lucas fell silent. A long moment passed. Lily's eyelids twitched again, as if to say, well, what are you waiting for? I've been lying here forever. But she quickly stilled them. Lucas grinned and poked her cheek. You're busted. Stop pretending. NGH. I really was asleep, Lily mumbled, her voice thick with fake sleepiness, like a kid trying to get out of trouble. Then, in a petulant whisper, she added, I just happened to wake up. You're a terrible actor, you know that? With an indignant huff, Lily pushed herself up, ready to get out of bed. But Lucas wrapped his arms around her, pulling her and the comforter back down with him. The chill that had just begun to creep over her skin was instantly replaced by warmth, a feeling so intoxicating she wanted to melt into it. It's getting late. We can't be lazy, she murmured despite herself. If this kept up, Lucas was going to turn her into a total slob. Besides, boys were dangerous in the morning. She could feel just how dangerous he was pressing against her. And until her mom was fully recovered, she had to protect herself. When Lily finally slipped out, Lucas couldn't be bothered to stay in bed alone. He rolled out and followed her like a zombie, shuffling toward the bathroom. Lily had just picked up her cup when she saw Lucas lean directly over the sink and drink straight from the faucet. She was so shocked she almost dropped her cup. No wonder she'd never seen him use it. Did he buy it just to hold his toothbrush? Oblivious to her astonishment, Lucas started brushing his teeth, his eyelids still heavy. They stood side by side, both looking in the mirror, but not at themselves. Lily was a little shorter than him, both of them in matching cotton pajamas, looking rumpled and sleep-tousled. Her hair was a mess, but still better than Lucas's, which looked like he'd stuck his finger in an electrical socket. For some reason, she thought they looked perfect together in the mirror. Except Lucas's dark circles looked a little worse. He looked like a panda. Had he secretly stayed up late after she'd fallen asleep? A moment later, Lily couldn't help but giggle at the sight of him, his face dotted with toothpaste foam, not taking his brushing seriously at all. He glanced at her. What's so funny? I'm just happy. Now she understood why Lucas had complained. This feeling was something she had never experienced when she woke up alone. So this is what it was like to live together. Starting the day like this, she felt like she could take on the world. Seeing her silly grin, Lucas let out a chuckle. Smiles were contagious. When one person's was genuine enough, it was impossible not to join in. He rinsed his mouth at the faucet, then wiped a stray bit of foam from his own mouth onto her cheek with his finger. Didn't Vanessa give you a bunch of fancy face washes and stuff? How come I never see you use them? Though it looked so expensive, Lily mumbled through a mouthful of toothpaste. I can't bear to use them. Lucas finished washing his own face in 2 seconds flat, knowing a girl's routine was far more involved. He flicked the water from his hands and walked out. Washing your face with cold water in the dead of winter was pure torture. He finally glanced at the wall clock and did a double take. It was almost 9:40. Even with their slow morning routine, that meant he hadn't woken up until after 9. Had he really been that tired last night? As he thought about it, he froze. He turned his head and stared at Lily's reflection in the bathroom mirror, his expression turning to one of stunned disbelief. There was no way. This dork, just because he'd offhandedly complained about wanting to wake up together, had she really pretended to be asleep and just laid there until after 9? Lily's internal clock was set to 6 a.m., more reliable than any alarm. Lucas opened his mouth to ask, but then closed it. There was no need. He already knew the answer. Since they'd gotten up so late, breakfast was a simple affair of fried eggs. Lucas's suggestion to stock up on instant ramen was shot down with a single, decisive veto from Lily. After they ate, Lily sat down at her desk, stretched, and prepared to start drawing, just like any other day. But as she reached for her stylus, Lucas's hand covered hers. "We're not doing anything today. We're going out," he said, his voice firm. "We can go just the two of us, or we can invite Emma, Maya, or Aaron. Your call." Lily blinked. "Are you going to say that if I stay home, you'll just end up bullying me?" The room went quiet for a few seconds. "Why aren't you saying anything?" she asked curiously. "You said it all for me. What's left to say?" "You're supposed to say, 'My love, come here and let me hold you.' If I hold you, I won't bully you," she instructed, her tone serious and professorial. Lucas pulled her onto the sofa. Just as they were about to figure out where to go, his phone buzzed with a voice message from Aaron. "Lily, I have too much stuff. Get your boyfriend over here to help me move." Well, that solved that problem. You had to hand it to Aaron. She was a woman of action. Saying something like, "I was walking past your building, saw a for rent sign, and just took it," was one thing. Actually doing it was another level of impulsive. There were different stages of childishness. An elementary schooler might just whine about wanting to sit next to their best friend in class. Aaron, on the other hand, had skipped all that and just moved in next door to Lily. In a way, it was the natural result of a carefree upbringing. Her decisions were based entirely on what made her happy, without a second thought for the consequences. She was still a big kid at heart, the polar opposite of Lily. Honestly, Lucas hoped a little of that would rub off on his girlfriend. He'd been racking his brain, trying to figure out how to help her unpack all her emotional baggage. Leaving it to time felt like a cop-out, like he was a useless boyfriend. Who knew how long that would take? A year? 2? A decade? By then, it wouldn't even matter. They wouldn't be young anymore, past the age where they had the energy to truly enjoy life. Lost time was lost forever. Lily noticed Lucas staring into space, but she was used to him zoning out. She didn't ask, just gently draped his jacket over his shoulders. They got dressed and went downstairs, following the building number Aaron had sent. Of course, the two buildings were right next to each other. Aaron's new apartment was on the 4th floor. The moment she opened the door, Lucas saw a mountain of boxes choking the living room, at least twice as many as he'd had when he moved. He had no idea how she planned to ever move out. "You're probably the only person in the country who makes their boss and the boss's girlfriend help them move," Lucas deadpanned. Wielding her status as the boss's girlfriend's best friend, Aaron had reached the absolute pinnacle of employee power. Who else could get away with this? Watching anime and gaming on company time, using "I have to go to class with the boss's girlfriend" as an excuse to be late, and even kicking him out of his own office to use his computer because hers wasn't good enough. Oh, and the public displays of affection with Lily. The other stuff was forgivable, but that last one made a flicker of irritation rise in him. He'd have to find an excuse to dock her pay when they got back to work. "It's not like I actually need you to move the heavy stuff. Just help me unpack. I'd be at this until tomorrow by myself," Aaron said, oblivious to her impending financial doom. She dusted off her hands and stepped aside. "Speaking of which, what's up with Emma lately? I asked her to help, but she said she had to study." The idea of that girl hitting the books was as unbelievable as Lily suddenly pinning Lucas to the bed. Lucas thought for a moment, then shook his head. "No idea. I'll ask her later." Knowing Emma, it was probably just an excuse, but she had been acting a little strange. The other day, he'd seen her with a book in her hand. A person doesn't just suddenly start loving to study unless they've been struck by lightning. The apartment layouts were identical, just mirror images of each other. While the girls started unpacking boxes, Lucas wandered around. From one of the bedrooms, he looked out the window and saw Lily's bedroom window. He realized then that not only was Aaron's apartment directly opposite theirs, but their bedrooms and balconies were perfectly aligned. They could probably wave to each other at night. "Seriously, Aqua Aaron, are you some kind of stalker?" he yelled, leaning out the window dramatically. "Don't you dare get a telescope and spy on us." It was the only unit for rent in the whole complex. "Do you have any idea how hard it is to find a place near campus?" "Such a creeper," Lucas said, pretending not to hear her. It was the real-life version of throwing shade and then putting someone on mute. Fuming, Aaron stormed into the living room, trying to rally her ally. "Lily, you can't let boyfriends get away with this. You have to put him in his place." Aaron seethed. "If you don't get him under control now, Just imagine how he'll bully you later. Seeing Aaron practically vibrating with rage, Lily nodded blankly and made a fist. Okay, I'll go discipline him. In the bedroom. What are you doing in here? Lucas asked, seeing Lily sneak up beside him, her hands behind her back. I'm here to discipline you, she said softly. When Lucas leaned down, offering his cheek, she stood on her toes and gave him a gentle peck. Next time you kiss me at home, you better close the curtains first, Lucas whispered mischievously in her ear. You never know who might be watching. Lily's cheeks puffed out. I did not kiss you on my own initiative. Her mother had told her a girl must be reserved. Most of her proactive kisses happened when Lucas was already asleep. Lucas, still ignoring everyone else, tapped on the window. See? Privacy is important, which is why when we get married, we should buy a nice high-end house. That's so expensive. Lily copied him, leaning in to whisper in his ear. It would take me a while to save up enough money. Doesn't matter. It's the guy's job to pay for the house these days. But it's our house. We should buy it together, Lily said stubbornly, an issue she'd always been firm on. She turned and looked out the window, her gaze settling on a little girl walking below, holding both her mother's and father's hands. Her expression shifted from envy to sadness, which was quickly replaced by a steely resolve. Unlike other girls, she didn't have parents who could help her with things like that. But she could work hard and earn it herself, with her own two hands. And then she could get married properly, like any other girl. She couldn't let Lucas compromise on everything for her. Lucas followed her gaze and paused, then raised an eyebrow. You have a ridiculously handsome boyfriend standing right here, and you're not even looking at him? Huh. A woman's heart is fickle. Already tired of me, huh? The corners of her eyes crinkled. Never. She secretly placed a hand over her heart, feeling the accelerated rhythm. Even after all this time, just looking at him made her heart race. How could she ever get tired of that? After their private conversation, they returned to the living room. By noon, the girls had unpacked most of the small things, leaving the heavy lifting to the only man present. Lily tried to help, but Lucas flatly refused. She retreated to the sofa and wiped the sweat from her brow, then noticed an unread message on her phone. It was a transfer notification for the final payment on her commission. She frowned. Lillipad, I thought you said the final payment was due on delivery? Amuro's girlfriend. Consider it a sign of our company's good faith. We'd love to work with you on a long-term basis, miss. Lillipad, thank you. Amuro's girlfriend. Can I ask you something? Why do you work so hard? I've never met an artist who's so efficient and never misses a deadline. Lillipad, I'm poor. After sending the message, she did some quick mental math, calculating the cost of an electric scooter and some new clothes for Lucas, and setting aside some money for her mother. After all that, she'd have about $300 left. She transferred the entire amount to pay down the debt. The instant the transfer notification popped up on her screen, Lucas's phone, sitting on the coffee table, pinged with an alert. Lily tilted her head, a thoughtful expression on her face. Lucas's WhatsApp notification didn't sound like that. It sounded more like a text message alert. Was it a coincidence? Or a wild theory surfaced in her mind. Hadn't that surgeon, who barely knew Lucas, praised him for being such a high earner at such a young age? Lily, can you bring me that box with the action figures? Lucas called from the bedroom. Lily glanced one last time at the phone on the coffee table before heading toward the bedroom. Oh, coming. The 6th day of the New Year's break. The last official day of the holiday. Jason had stayed at Vanessa's for an unusually long time, only returning to Seattle today. Ryan, who'd arrived on the same day, shot him a text, and the three of them decided to get together for dinner. Everyone you met after graduation seemed to have an angle, some kind of transactional relationship. College roommates were different, so they could still get together, just like old times, and reminisce about skipping class to play games at the arcade. They chose a casual riverside grill near campus, right next to a bridge. The food was good, and the view was even better. That evening, Lucas arrived alone, walking along the riverbank, staring at the shimmering water, trying to remember where his last phone had met its watery grave. He shivered and pulled his jacket tighter. Eating by the river was great for a lot of reasons, but in the middle of winter, it was freezing. Lucas, over here. Ryan, already seated, waved him over with a grin. Coming. Lucas sat down and shivered again. You guys order yet? All done, Ryan said. They'd eaten here for 3 years straight during college. They knew each other's orders by heart. The owner had even asked if they wanted the usual the moment he sat down. Lucas looked around. It was still just the two of them. Where's that other jerk? Said he's stuck in traffic. It's rush hour, after all, Ryan said, sniffling from the cold. Did he really spend the break at his girlfriend's place? You think he'd lie about that? It's a good thing, too. Otherwise, I think you would have eaten instant ramen on the sidewalk before going home for the holidays. Just as he spoke, Jason appeared, carrying a large gift box. He walked up to their table from the direction Lucas had just come. "This is for my girl, for your girl." Jason waved the box in Lucas's face before plopping down next to him. "She doesn't even wear makeup. She hasn't used the last stuff you gave her," Lucas said, taking the box. He gave it a quick once-over. "Damn, even with a discount, this had to be worth a few $100. If Lily found out, she'd probably hide it away and treat it like a family heirloom." Jason's eyes narrowed. "Are you trying to show off how naturally beautiful your girlfriend is?" Lucas blinked innocently. "Was I? I guess she is." Jason felt his words get stuck in his throat. He gave up. Ryan snorted and turned to Jason. "You're not really in the campus loop anymore. I was practically living at the library, and I'm telling you, his girlfriend is a legend at UW. They say no one ever managed to get her number. The most untouchable campus queen of all time. No contest." "Lucas is a bastard," Jason said simply. "Total bastard," Ryan agreed, raising his beer. "Let's you and I have one." Without him, Lucas propped his chin on his hand. He just spent the entire holiday break with his future in-laws. Ryan's hand froze midair. "Shit, I'll drink by myself then." All right, stop messing around." After their laughing first round, they dug into the food. "Hey, how did the LSAT go?" Jason asked after a while. Ryan's face fell as he pushed his glasses up. "Didn't pass." "It's cool. Unlucky in law, lucky in love, right? What's up with you and that girl?" "Bianca, what's her name?" "Bianca Cooper," Lucas supplied calmly. "Right, Bianca Cooper. How's that going?" "I blocked her," Ryan said quietly. After a long pause, he let out a breath and gave a self-deprecating smile. "I spent so much time and money on her, failed the LSAT, and in the end I got nothing." Jason felt like an idiot. Why did he have to bring it up? Lucas hadn't asked a single thing. Lucas didn't say anything, just silently refilled Ryan's glass. "It's okay. Live and learn. I'll come to terms with it." Ryan sniffled and downed the glass in one go. "From now on, I'm only investing in myself. If I become good enough, love will find me sooner or later, right?" "My boy's all grown up," Lucas said, a smirk playing on his lips. "Screw you," Ryan said with a laugh. "You guys are all stable, right?" Jason's eyes darted around. "Getting there, I guess." "Good enough. You could just wait for my wedding invitation," Lucas said. Jason scoffed. "You're not even old enough to get married. What are you talking about? My dad will probably get married again before you do. You think anyone believes a player like you?" Jason was getting riled up now, staring him down. "What do you want to bet?" "Nah, I'm not betting with you." "Why not?" Lucas pointed at Jason's back. "Because right now, you're like an old general in an opera, covered in victory flags." There wasn't much else to talk about. The three of them had been coasting since their last dinner, so they spent the rest of the meal listening to Jason's epic saga of meeting his girlfriend's parents. Lucas had always been a natural with future mothers-in-law, so he'd never experienced such tribulations. It was all new to him. "The whole time, my future father-in-law never said a word about 'don't bully my daughter' or anything like that," Jason concluded, taking a long drag from his cigarette. "He just took me for a walk and, without a single change in expression, split a brick in half with his bare hands right in front of me." Lucas's eyes widened. He could already see the headlines. "Jason gets his legs broken by his father-in-law for making Vanessa angry." His favorite episode. He glanced at the time. It was after 10. The last message from Lily was at 9. Just a simple "come back soon." Silly girl. She was probably just staring at her phone, not even willing to text him again to hurry up. Meanwhile, Jason's phone was ringing off the hook. Lucas sighed and slowly stood up. "I'm heading out." "Already?" "The three of us are finally free. We're not going to the arcade for an all-nighter?" Jason asked, apparently forgetting he'd just gotten an earful from Vanessa a minute ago. "Can't be out too late. Got someone waiting at home," Lucas said with a flick of his eyebrows. "You are such a bastard," Jason and Ryan said in unison. Splash. What the hell was that sound? Jason hadn't even finished a sentence when he heard shouting from the bridge. Someone jumped in the river. Jumped in the river? Lucas froze, then slowly stood up, looking toward the source of the shouts. A small crowd had gathered on the bridge, everyone craning their necks to look down, muttering amongst themselves. The three of them joined the onlookers at the railing. "Oh my God, in this cold. Right from here. It has climbed over. I thought they were just looking at the view, and then they were gone. They look so young. Why would someone so young do that?" The cacophony of shouts and murmurs buzzed in Lucas's ears, making his head spin. The bridge was high above the water, and in the dead of night, he couldn't make out if the person in the water was a man or a woman. Couldn't even see their shape, just the frantic splashing as they struggled. He glanced around. The people on the bridge were still just talking. No one seemed to have any intention of going in. It made sense. A drowning person's survival instinct makes them claw at their rescuer, pushing them under in a desperate attempt to stay afloat. There were too many stories of rescuers dying that way. No one wanted to take that risk. Lucas had never considered himself a good person. He'd never donated a dime to charity and wouldn't give an able-bodied beggar a second glance. But seeing this with his own eyes, he couldn't just do nothing. He started to take off his jacket, but a hand clamped down on his shoulder. It was Jason. Lucas was frantic. He didn't even have time to speak, just turned and gave Jason a look of panicked disbelief. "You're not going in fine, but you're going to stop me." Jason met his gaze, his expression calm, almost cold. "Your life isn't just yours anymore." He glanced down at the water, took a deep breath, and continued, his voice low. "What about Lily?" Lucas froze. Jason's words echoed in his head, transforming into a single, terrifying question. If something happens to you, could Lily handle it? He'd read articles about water rescues, but he'd never actually done one. He had zero experience. If there really was an accident, strength and fragility existed side by side in that girl. Lucas didn't dare imagine what would happen to Lily without him. He rarely even let himself think about what would have happened if she'd never met him that day. The thought that he might never see her again, never be there to watch her heal, never get to shamelessly tease her and steal kisses, that he might never even hold her hand while walking down the street. He stumbled back a step, startled by his own reaction. Was he really that afraid of dying? As he stood there, lost in thought, the crowd's chatter pulled him back. He was about to say something when Ryan clapped him on the other shoulder. "It's okay, Lucas. I got this." Ryan scanned the crowd, saw that still no one was moving, and then unhooked his glasses, tucking them into Lucas's collar. He smirked. He wasn't sure where the smugness was coming from. Maybe he was just happy to finally be the hero for once. Or maybe he was thinking about how these two guys, who were always showing off their girlfriends, had turned into total cowards when it mattered, unlike him, with no one to tie him down. Without another thought, he vaulted over the railing and hit the water with a splash. Jason's eyes nearly bulged out of his head. "Are you kidding me? I can't stop all of you. This one didn't even give me a chance." Seeing Lucas still taking off his jacket, he yelled, "Ryan's already in. What are you doing? Is this the first day you've met him? Do you really think he has the brains for a rescue?" Lucas shouted back, throwing his jacket at Jason. A second later, another splash echoed from below. Jason sighed and pulled out his phone. "Someone's in the water?" "Yeah, the bridge by the river, opposite the grill. Make sure you come from the south side. The north access is blocked with illegally parked cars." He rattled off the details crisply, then added, "And you'd better hurry. You're looking at 4 potential fatalities here." He hung up and looked over the edge, just in time to hear Lucas yelling from the water. "Are you trying to get yourself killed? Don't approach from the front. We go from behind. Wait until they're exhausted." An eternity later, Lucas finally dragged himself onto the riverbank on the other side of the bridge. Jason was standing there, watching him. "Are you insane?" Jason yelled, his voice laced with fury. "You didn't even think to call 911 first. You just jumped? If you drowned, there would have been no one to even pull your body out." Lucas just wiped the water from his face and gave him a faint smile. "I knew you would. That's why I jumped." He paused, a weird thought occurring to him. He'd now fallen into a body of water twice in less than 6 months. But this was different from the fishing trip. This was January. The water was bone-chillingly cold. The adrenaline had kept him from feeling in the water, but now that he was out, he couldn't stop shaking. He looked over to where Ryan had come ashore. The crowd had gathered around him, since he was the one holding the person they'd rescued. Well, at least failing the LSAT isn't a death sentence. "Good thing he can swim," Lucas quipped. Jason was in no mood for jokes. "You two remind me of a word. You think I'm some kind of Boy Scout? I just gave the girl a chance to reconsider. If she tries again, that's not my problem. A lot of people probably regret it halfway down, but they don't get a second chance." Lucas tucked his chin to his chest, shivering violently. He put his own jacket on, then took the one Jason was holding and layered it on top. Still cold. He was soaked to the bone, water still dripping from his hair. "I'm heading back. I'm going to freeze to death if I stay here," Lucas said with a wave, hugging himself as he shuffled toward the parking lot. Jason watched as Lucas, wrapped in jackets, walked out from under the glow of a street lamp and into the darkness, slowly blending into the crowd of onlookers until he disappeared completely, as if nothing had happened. Dinner, rescue, go home. Jason couldn't help but let out a short, sharp laugh. "Damn, you just had to steal all the glory, didn't you?" Soon, the flashing red and blue lights of police cars and ambulances arrived. Only then did Ryan get a good look at the girl lying on the ground next to him. She was playing like most of the girls in his classes, But if he had to pick one thing that stood out, it was her short hair. It was the kind of severe, practical cut you'd see at some strict high school up north. The hairstyle of a quintessential good girl. After a moment, "Why would you do that?" Ryan asked, getting to his feet as the paramedics loaded her onto a stretcher. The girl was still in shock, her voice weak. I graduated, but I didn't pass the entrance exams. My parents said I was useless." As the stretcher was lifted, she tried to get a look at the man who had saved her, only to hear him say, "You're nuts." Ryan snorted, squeezing the water from his pants as he turned to leave. "I got cheated on, and I didn't try to kill myself over it." The girl stared at his retreating back, still blinking, even as they loaded her into the ambulance. "Why did he yell at me?" 11 o'clock at night. Lucas's trembling hand knocked on the apartment door. He heard a frantic patter of footsteps growing closer. A few seconds later, the door swung open. "We're out of honey, so I warmed up some M." Lily, rubbing the sleep from her eyes, stopped mid-sentence. The book she was holding slipped from her grasp and hit the floor with a thud. "Ilk," Lily finished in a daze. Forgetting the book on the floor entirely, she reached out and cupped Lucas's face in her hands. He wasn't just soaking wet. His lips were tinged with blue, and his face, stark under the hallway light, was etched with an exhaustion she'd never seen before. "What happened to you?" The last traces of sleep vanished from her voice. Lucas gently touched her hand and stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "It's nothing." He had known she would worry, but going home to change first would have meant an interrogation from his mom. Between the two, this was the lesser evil. If Emily Carter heard about this, she'd first give him a thumbs up, then hang him from the rafters and whip him, telling him she'd break his legs if he ever did it again. Or maybe she'd skip the praise and go straight to the whipping. "I'm not stupid," Lily mumbled. Hearing him say it was nothing, the knot of anxiety in her chest loosened just a little. "I'm gonna go shower. I'll tell you everything in a bit," Lucas said, heading for the bathroom. He poked his head back out. "Can you grab me some clean clothes?" After a long, hot shower, the bone-deep chill finally began to recede. Lucas was about to text Ryan to see how he was doing when he patted his pockets and found them empty. Other than the keys that had been in his jacket, his phone, earbuds, power bank. Everything was gone, probably at the bottom of the river. Perfect. He'd now lost 2 phones in that same damn river, in almost the exact same spot. He covered his face and sighed. Let them keep each other company. When he looked up, Lily was sitting on the sofa, just as he'd expected, watching him silently. Her clear, beautiful eyes seemed to shimmer. Worry and fear were written all over her face, but she bit her lip, forcing herself not to ask. Lucas smiled faintly and sat down next to her. He gathered his thoughts and began to explain. "So, I was having dinner with Jason and the guys by the river, when my phone fell in. We were about to leave when someone jumped. Nobody was moving, and I knew an ambulance would take a while. It's freezing out, and they wouldn't last long. Ryan was the one who went in to save them. I went in to save him." He tried to keep his tone light. "You wouldn't believe it. I told the person, if you want to live, just raise your hands and don't move. And they just surrendered, threw their hands up in the air. I laughed so hard I swallowed a mouthful of river water. I bet even professional rescue teams have never seen someone so cooperative." He added, "You don't have to worship me or anything. I'm a pretty low-key guy." He recounted the story as if it were a trivial matter, a way to tell her the truth without making it sound too dramatic. He knew that when it came to things like this, only strangers would praise you for being a hero. The people who loved you would only feel fear and worry. Just as he'd predicted, Lily wasn't impressed or excited. In fact, her expression grew darker with every word. "You went in?" she asked, her voice small. She glanced at the trail of water that led from the front door to the bathroom, then lowered her head again. Lucas had never heard her use this tone before. It was unreadable. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, I did. People can die doing that. But I'm fine." "People can die," she repeated, cutting him off. This time, her voice trembled. Lucas reached out to touch her shoulder, but she looked up at him just then, her eyes red-rimmed, all trace of sleepiness gone. "Even if you don't care what would happen to me without you, you should have at least thought about Emma and your mom and dad." "I'm sorry," he said, stunned into immediate honesty. Lily didn't respond, just turned her head away. Her long hair fell over her shoulder, obscuring her face. All he could see was a single, crystalline tear trace a path down her cheek, hang for a moment at her chin, and then fall. It landed on her shirt, but it felt like a stone dropping into his heart, sending ripples of unease through him that wouldn't settle. He'd always known that no couple gets through life without fighting. He just never imagined the first time he'd make Lily cry would be over something like this. "I swear, You were the only thing on my mind before I did it, he said softly. Lily sniffled. I've told you before. It doesn't matter if you're lying or not. Don't make promises you can't keep. He tried to take her hand, but she stood up abruptly and walked into the bedroom, closing the door with a soft click. Lucas stood there for a moment, stunned. His heart felt a complicated mix of emotions, including a strange sense of pride that she was finally learning how to be angry. It wasn't exactly something to celebrate, but it was progress. He took a deep breath and pushed down on the handle. This was their first real argument. He had to handle it perfectly. The door wasn't locked. It swung open easily. The bedroom was dark. Lily was lying on her side, burrowed under the covers, occasionally wiping at her eyes with the back of her hand. He slipped in beside her and wrapped his arms around her. When she didn't resist, he let out a silent breath of relief and moved closer. Don't be angry anymore, okay? He whispered. Compared to the icy river, holding her in the warm bed felt like paradise. I'm not angry, Lily mumbled. Lucas smirked. Oh, I believe you. That line was probably used by 90% of all angry girlfriends in history. She was a fast learner. I've never lied to you. Lily wiped away another tear. I'm really not angry. Then why are you crying? He asked, confused. I'm angry at myself for being so pathetic, she mumbled into his chest. I really want to be angry at you, to make you promise never to do that again, but I can't bear it. Her words dissolved into hiccuping sobs. Every time I try to get mad, I just think about how cold you must have been when you came home. And then I can't be angry anymore. Lucas was speechless for a long moment, then pulled her tighter with a wry smile. Okay, it's all right. Your boyfriend's smart, remember? I never do things I'm not sure about. The night grew quieter. The lights in the building across the way went out one by one. Eventually, the girl in his arms stopped crying. Lucas, I'm actually very selfish, Lily said, tracing patterns on his chest with her fingertip, as she always did. If it were possible, I wish you wouldn't even save me. Like that day, we went fishing. Every year, there were news stories about rescuers drowning. Even she, who was so disconnected from the world, had seen them. She knew how dangerous it was. Lucas's eyebrows shot up. You call that selfish? Lily Thompson, are you trying to redefine the word selfish? Lucas asked, completely baffled. Next time, can we just call the police, okay? The girl asked, ignoring his question, her voice soft. Okay, Lucas agreed instantly. The moment he said it, Lily leaned up and pressed a rewarding kiss to his lips before snuggling back into his arms. Lucas sighed deeply. He had prepared a whole arsenal of tactics in his head, and he hadn't gotten to use a single one. It seemed having a proper, normal couples fight was going to be difficult for them. Lily let out a quiet yawn and rubbed her eyes, then sighed again. I have a feeling you won't change. You're just that kind of person. Lucas leaned over and kissed her forehead. If I weren't that kind of person, I never would have met you, right? Lily's mind stuttered to a halt. Their story had started with Lucas being that kind of person, the kind who couldn't help but meddle. I guess that's true. If Lucas hadn't had such a good heart, he never would have walked over to comfort her all those years ago. She never would have held on to his memory for so long, and she never would have come to Seattle as an adult. If he didn't like to get involved, he would have just stood by and watched like everyone else that day, and he certainly wouldn't have offered to walk her home. They never would have even met, let alone be like this now, holding each other, feeling the warmth and the beat of each other's hearts. The thought made her hug him tighter, as if she were afraid he'd disappear. Thank God you're still the same warm-hearted boy. She suddenly felt like she was holding him back, but she still didn't want him to ever do something like that again. If she was holding him back, so be it. She couldn't live without him. Lily sniffled and squeezed him even tighter. For the first time, Lily was hugging him so hard he could barely breathe. But under the circumstances, he didn't dare struggle. When you think about it, he whispered, it's like you're the universe's reward for an oddball like me. After all these years of being the good guy, he'd finally earned himself a wife. See, I told you I was a gentleman. A smug, silly grin spread across Lucas's face. The little storm, which hadn't even qualified as an argument, passed. Neither of them felt like sleeping. They just lay tangled up in the blankets, talking in hushed whispers. Why do you think that girl did it? Lily asked quietly. I don't know, but living is hard. Lucas gently stroked her long hair. Not everyone is as strong as you are. He knew he wasn't. He'd tried to put himself in her shoes before. He might have come up with smarter solutions, but he never would have been able to endure it. And even if he had, he couldn't have remained as kind as she had. Am I strong? Lily sounded confused. She had, after all, just been crying. Of course. A thought suddenly occurred to Lucas. Did you ever think about just ending it all? I did, Lily admitted, burying her hot face in his chest. She had more than thought about it. For a time, she'd thought about it, every single day. But she couldn't. She had too many responsibilities. Great. Lily Thompson, now it's my turn to be angry. Lily immediately turned to face him, her watery eyes blinking. Why are you angry? Because the thought of you doing that, and me never getting to meet you, makes me angry, Lucas said, raising an eyebrow. The tables had turned. Two could play at this game. I'm sorry, Lily said, her apology as swift as his had been. Master strategist Lucas Carter was completely blindsided. All the clever retorts he had prepared got stuck in his throat. The more he thought about it, the more frustrated he got. So he simply pulled Lily underneath him and kissed her until she was breathless. There's plenty of evidence to suggest that when a couple resolves a fight, their bond temporarily strengthens, making them cling to each other more. It's why so many people make up and immediately fall into each other's arms. And even though Lucas felt their little spat didn't even qualify as a real argument, the principle still held true. The truth was, they were both terrified by what had happened. The fear of losing each other was mutual, so their intimacy became a way of confirming the other was still there, real and tangible, making them both bolder than before. They kissed for a long time. During a pause when Lily, who still hadn't mastered breathing while kissing, was gasping for air, Lucas's hands began to wander. He deftly undid the top button of her pajama shirt, his lips moving from her chin to her neck, and then lower, until he reached the summit he had scaled several times before. A magnificent, snow-white peak. The girl's body trembled. Don't! Lily's protest was weak. She could only bite her lip, and after a moment, she turned her face away and bit down on the blanket, embarrassed to make a sound. She clung to him like a stuffed animal, the blanket clamped between her teeth. Lucas, ever the troublemaker, gently pulled the blanket from her mouth, leaving her with nothing to muffle her soft cries. Outside, the moon disappeared behind a thick blanket of clouds, plunging the dim room into near-total darkness. The only sound was the chirping of crickets, a sweet, rising and falling melody. When the bright moon finally emerged from the clouds, casting its cool light back into the bedroom, Lily was already asleep. Lucas gently stroked her hair, his eyes full of tenderness. Everything that had happened since he'd heard someone was in the water felt like a dream. He'd somehow pulled a person from the river, and then somehow unlocked a new level of intimacy with Lily. He smiled faintly and moved closer, tracing the outline of her cheek in the moonlight, unable to resist poking her soft, jelly-like skin. Lily murmured in discomfort, and in a half-dreaming state, she swatted his hand away, pulling it behind her back so he was holding her again. Only then did she settle back into a contented sleep. Lucas watched her quietly until his own eyes slowly drifted shut. Jason was right. His life wasn't just his own anymore. Don't go in. Lily shot up in bed, gasping for air as if she'd been deprived of oxygen. Once her head cleared, she whipped her head to the side. After repeatedly confirming that Lucas was there, safe and sound, she finally let her heart rate settle, her breathing evening out. In the silence of the room, Lily scooted closer to him, wanting to hold him tight but afraid of waking him. She gently rested her arm over his chest. She wiped the tears from the corners of her eyes on his shoulder and placed her right hand over his heart, just feeling its steady beat. She didn't know how long it was before she fell asleep again. Lucas was woken by a rustling sound. He blearily opened his eyes. The sky outside was just beginning to lighten, a sliver of dawn piercing through the gap in the curtains, but the room was still dim, everything veiled in a thin, dark gauze. He tried to move and found himself wrapped tightly in the comforter. He often kicked the blankets off in his sleep, so waking up like this could only mean one thing. Lily was already awake. He turned his head. Lily was sitting on the edge of the bed, fumbling with the buttons on her pajama top, glancing back at him every few seconds to see if he was stirring. "You're awake?" Lucas mumbled, his voice thick with sleep as he rubbed his eyes. The words were barely out of his mouth before he froze. Oops, he probably shouldn't have spoken. As expected, Lily jumped, diving back under the covers and pulling them over her head. Lucas yawned and smiled. "What's the big deal? I saw everything last night anyway." As he spoke, he replayed the sensations in his mind. He'd never quite understood that meme, the one that said, "Do you desire power?" "No, I desire." Now he got it. Power was nothing compared to this. This was every boy's dream, and he'd finally achieved it. More effort would be required in the future. Just as he was lost in thought, Lily sat up on his chest, cupped his face in her hands, and stared down at him with a pout. Then, she slowly reared her head back. The blissful smile on his face vanished. Not my forehead. I'm sorry. This won't give me amnesia. Stop." Lucas clutched his head, moaning as he rolled around on the bed in mock agony. Did it really hurt? I barely used any force. Seeing his dramatic display, Lily's expression softened with guilt. She leaned over him, gently rubbing his forehead. Of course it did. Lucas huffed. If he didn't sell it, how was he going to get a free massage out of this? Calling Lily a dork was accurate on 2 counts. She was a dork, and her forehead was apparently made of iron. The initial impact had genuinely made his head ring. Hearing this, Lily's guilt intensified. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, she whispered, her touch becoming even more tender. You nearly gave me a concussion, and you think that's enough to earn my forgiveness? Lucas demanded coolly. Lily bit her lip, then leaned close to his ear, her voice a sweet, pleading whisper. My love, I really know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Seeing Lucas's eyes widen in clear hesitation, she leaned down and pressed a kiss to his Adam's apple. It was obvious she'd completely forgotten that he had started the whole thing. Her only thought was how to get him to forgive her. Lucas fought to suppress a grin, clearing his throat loudly. Fine, I guess I can forgive you. What can I say? I like you too much. The corners of Lily's eyes curved up as she sat back on the edge of the bed to finish buttoning her shirt. Her boyfriend was so easy to appease. So cute. As she fastened the last button, her head drooped lower and lower. Had Lucas been watching her the whole time? Was he really angry? Or just pretending? Seeing her spirits lift, Lucas smirked. She was so wonderfully easy to fool. It's only 5-something, it's not even light out. Want to sleep a little more? She asked softly. Nah, I'm not tired. The sleep was gone from his eyes. Lucas was about to sit up and stretch when Lily, now fully dressed, wrapped her arms around him again. I feel like something's wrong, she said. What's wrong? Lucas asked, curious. When I'm jealous, you get to take advantage of me. When I'm unhappy, you still get to take advantage of me. As she spoke, she gave his shoulder a light, playful bite, leaving a faint mark. Lucas froze. She had a point. He reached up and pinched her cheek. Were you really not mad at me last night? Nope, Lily said, shaking her head. She burrowed deeper into his arms like a cat. The wind howled outside, but tangled together, they were perfectly warm. Seeing her like this, Lucas was finally convinced. The dork hadn't been angry at all. When you finally learn to get angry, the way you learn to smile, you'll be the one taking advantage, not me. I don't want to learn. Why not? What if you don't want me anymore? Lily asked, her voice timid, suddenly sounding like she did when they first met. How could I not want you? Where would I ever find a girlfriend as beautiful as you? Lily looked at him with wide, wounded eyes. You really are just after my body. Lucas snorted. You don't believe me when I say anything else. The truth is, I love you so much I can't live without you. But if I say that, would you believe it? No one would believe that. It was a perfect line. First, he complimented her looks. Then he pivoted to the less believable, but true, statement. The more hurt she was by the first part, the more overjoyed she would be by the second. Lucas congratulated himself. The art of slowly boiling a frog was something this simple girl could never comprehend. I believe you, she said simply. Lucas. He sat up, utterly bewildered. Wait, that sounds so obviously fake. Why would you just believe it? Because I'm the same as you. That's exactly how I feel, Lily said, giggling with pure happiness, as if his word alone were enough to fill her with joy. Boy. Lucas sat there, motionless. If it weren't for the steady blinking of his eyes, he could have been a statue. After a long moment, I'm hungry. Let's eat, he said, then swung his legs out of bed and stalked out of the room, his steps filled with frustration and defeat. How could the great master of the slow burn have suffered so many defeats since the new year? To lose repeatedly was one thing, but to be so thoroughly outplayed by a simple dork. The more he thought about it, the more annoyed he became. He sat on the sofa, replaying the conversation in his head, feeling his still racing heart. Good thing he'd reacted quickly, or she would have noticed. Humans are naturally lazy in the winter. They don't want to go to school, don't want to go to work, and have to conduct a full-scale mental debate just to leave the warmth of the bed to go to the bathroom. But that rule didn't seem to apply to Lily. She was up as early as ever, never lazing in bed, and was always making him a different breakfast. If there was one thing she was absolutely uncompromising about, it was that Lucas had to eat well and take care of his stomach. It was non-negotiable. So Lucas never argued. She cooked seriously, and he helped when he had time. When he didn't, he ate obediently. Breakfast was a duck blood and vermicelli soup. It was one of those dishes like lamb offal soup or spicy pepper soup that was just okay most of the time, but was transcendently delicious on a cold winter morning. He wasn't sure why some people didn't like duck blood. Lily herself seemed indifferent to it, but Lucas loved it. Did your phone fall in the river again? Lily asked, noticing Lucas was eating without looking at his phone. Yup, I'll buy a new one on my way to the office. Lucas had clearly accepted his fate. Besides, Jason still owed him a phone from the last time he'd thrown one in the river. He'd just get Jason to pay for it. If he refused, Lucas would just show him the picture of their signed father-son agreement. Lily's eyes darted back and forth as she thought about the phone, which seemed to trigger a memory. Lucas. Did you pay for Mom's surgery? Lucas's chopsticks slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. As the sound of the chopsticks faded, an absolute silence fell over the dining table. Lily stared at him, her mouth slightly agape, her expression dazed. Lucas cleared his throat, pretending nothing had happened. He bent down to pick up the chopsticks. How could that be possible? He said calmly. Are you writing a novel over there? He then asked, why would you think that? It's just a feeling. It suddenly occurred to me. Lily never kept things from Lucas. She fidgeted with her fingers and explained slowly, before, when I was helping at errands, right after I transferred the money I owed, your phone rang. The conclusion was a stretch, but she was sure it had been the sound of a text message. Lucas froze, then secretly swallowed. A small smile played on his lips. My dear departed phone, you died a hero's death. This was perfect. There was no evidence. If his phone hadn't sunk to the bottom of the river, Lily, who never looked at his phone, might one day get a wild idea to check. Now it was gone. When he got a new phone, he could completely sever his connection to that bank card, stop the text notifications, and write off the previous incident as a pure coincidence. He dodged a bullet, as long as he could quell her suspicions now. If you just think about it logically, you'll know it couldn't have been me, Lucas said softly. I told you back then, I'm not some saint. I wouldn't help you for nothing. If it really was me, I would have told you right from the start. You would have been so moved, and then I could have done whatever I wanted with you, right? He raised an eyebrow at her. Where's the need to keep fighting these little battles just to get a little something when I still haven't even? He trailed off suggestively. See? It doesn't make sense. Lily stared at his lecherous grin, then pursed her lips and said nothing more. The logic was sound, but something still felt off. She sat there quietly, tried to use her clever brain to piece the whole thing together. Lucas always said he wasn't a good person, but everything he had done for her had been without asking for anything in return. But if it really was him, why would he hide it? Hide it. Seeing her still lost in thought, Lucas put on a stern face. I'm your boyfriend. You don't trust me? So that's all our relationship is worth to you. He discovered a powerful new tactic, using a girl's own lines against her. It was brutally effective. At the sight of his cold expression, Lily started shaking her head like a bobblehead doll. No, I trust you. It's not like that at all. I like you so much. That was the thing about her. Her trust in him always overrode her own logic and suspicions. Lucas was certain of it. His excuse was full of holes and based entirely on his own version of logic. But just because he said, trust, she did. Sigh, you should just be glad your boyfriend isn't a scumbag, Lucas thought to himself. But once a seed of doubt is planted, it finds a way to grow, drawing nourishment from 1,000 details you never noticed before. He had a feeling he couldn't keep this a secret for much longer. He still hadn't unraveled the knot of insecurities Lily was clinging to, and now the landmine he'd planted himself was about to go off. Why was it so hard to help this girl live a little more freely? A girl this beautiful, this perfect, living her entire life just for him. The thought alone was breathtaking. Lucas swallowed and looked back at Lily, who was now pouring him a glass of warm water. She met his gaze and tilted her head, her clear eyes filled with a soft tenderness. She offered him a small smile, and it warmed him like the winter sun. Lucas found himself smiling back like an idiot. His love for her would always win out over his selfish desires. All that mattered was her happiness. The universe owed her for all the hardships she'd endured, and he was going to collect on that debt with interest. Whether it was tricking her into marrying him or helping her let go of her past, he would do it all, slowly, step by step. It was a piece of cake. He was Master Carter, after all. Nobody understood the art of the slow burn better than him. You have a really silly smile, Lily said softly. You're the silly one, Lucas retorted, rolling his eyes as he walked to the entryway to put on his jacket. I'm heading to the office. What are your plans for today? Although a few people had been trickling into the office since the holiday break started, today was the first official day back. They had an important meeting to plan out the next steps. Last year's final meeting was about wrapping things up. This one was about kicking things off. They'd already declared war on their rivals before the break. Until the lawsuit was settled, it was going to be a tough fight. They needed a strong start. Draw. Make money. Lily picked up her tablet from the desk, looking like she wanted to go with him. Doesn't that commission have a really flexible deadline? What's the rush? When I finish this one, I can take on the next one. Lucas clicked his tongue. It's the first day back from the break. Take another day off. Just let me finish this one drawing. After this one, I'll take a day off. No, not unless you call me honey. No. Lily turned her face away, her cheeks puffing out in a pout. This man was always trying to take advantage of her. Then you'll relax for another day. Erin's not working today. Go hang out with her. With that, Lucas blew her a kiss. I'm leaving. Lily's hand was still raised, reaching for a hug that never came, as the door clicked shut. It was only a little after 7 in the morning when Lucas arrived at the office, but a surprising number of people were already there. It was a testament to him being a decent boss. Many of his employees were more afraid of the company going under than he was. Happy New Year, boss, a few of the girls from the art team called out as he walked in. How can I be happy when I have to work after only a few days off? He grumbled back, then pushed open the door to Jason's office, leaving the girls staring after him in confusion. Wait, that's not right. Isn't that supposed to be our line? Seeing their boss so miserable, the team suddenly felt that coming back to work wasn't so bad after all. People are strange like that. Inside the office, Jason was pinned face down on his desk by Vanessa, who had him in some kind of arm lock. He was wincing in pain. I'm gone for one day, and you dare to come home late and not answer my calls? Vanessa hissed, cranking his arm up a little higher. You thought I couldn't get you? Surprise, I drove back to Seattle last night. Now tell me why, and don't even think about making up an excuse. You have 3 seconds. Lucas sucked in a breath and shuffled into a corner. He was about to pull out his phone to record the scene when he remembered he didn't have one. I really didn't mean to be home late last night, Jason groaned. Someone jumped into the river just as we were leaving. I was watching them deal with it for ages, and I passed out the second I got home. Could you try a more believable lie? Why not just say you were abducted by aliens? It was then that Jason noticed Lucas watching him with undisguised glee. Ask Lucas, he yelped. He was there. Vanessa looked up at Lucas, her expression softening slightly. Lucas, is he telling the truth? Lucas met Jason's desperate gaze with a look of pure bewilderment, as if to say, if you were going to use that excuse, you probably should have given me a heads up. Vanessa seemed to understand immediately. Jason's pupils dilated, and his body began to tremble. His eyes were filled with terror. Lucas, you bastard. Gently, my arm's gonna break. It was a shame he couldn't record this masterpiece. Lucas waited until he'd had his fill of a show before finally corroborating Jason's story. Only then was Jason released. He lay draped over the desk like a dead fish. You tortured me for nothing. Don't I deserve an apology? He mumbled, rubbing his shoulder. For nothing? I was settling the score for you bad-mouthing me to my dad over the break. You thought this was about you not answering my calls? I can apologize, and then we can settle that other score for real. Never mind, Jason said quickly. That's what I thought. Vanessa snorted. She then held out a bag of chips to Jason's mouth. You didn't go in the water, did you? She asked. Jason shook his head. Are you kidding? I was terrified something would happen, and I'd never see you again. Good. If you had, I would have kicked your ass, Vanessa said with a nod, apparently satisfied with his answer. Lucas took an unopened bag of snacks for Vanessa. So, are things slow for the great lawyer lately? It's right after the holidays. I don't have any cases, Vanessa sighed. Anyway, I'll let you two have your meeting. Hey, when you have a chance, could you take Lily out somewhere? I'll owe you one, Lucas said, just as she was about to leave. Ew, owing someone a favor? Vanessa looked surprised. Like Jason, she'd known Lucas for over 3 years, and it had always been them indebted to him. This was the first time Lucas had ever asked her for help. It was a novelty. She turned back and gave him an okay sign before slipping out the door. After that entertaining interlude, the two of them sat down in the conference room. Jason was still wincing and rubbing his shoulder. So, I called my old man yesterday. If you want to get a award for heroism, you'll need the girl who jumped to identify you. You'll definitely get an award, but the prize money depends on the city. Wait, you and your dad. Lucas paused. He thought Jason and his father had completely cut ties. He hadn't even gone home for the holidays. But he made a call home just to help him get recognized for the rescue. He hadn't raised this boy for nothing. It was freezing, man. I couldn't let you go for a swim for nothing. You looked like a frozen stray dog when you got out. It doesn't matter. Then why are you so down today? Jason was even more confused. He was excited for the new year at the company, but Lucas looked like he'd suffered a great injustice. I really don't want to be at work. Lucas's wail echoed from the conference room and reverberated throughout the entire office. Meanwhile, Lily was standing at the entrance of her apartment building, staring blankly at 2 sparrows nestled on a tree branch. It was a beautiful day, crisp and clear, but the air was still bitingly cold. The landscape was bleak and bare, save for a few evergreen shrubs. After a moment, she blew on her hands to warm them and adjusted the scarf around her neck. It was another day off. Knowing Lucas, he would probably pop back and check if she was secretly grinding away at her art. So, Lily had put her drawing aside and decided to go visit Aaron. The two buildings were less than 20 steps apart. A minute later, she was there. Aaron was lounging at home in a green dinosaur onesie, looking utterly relaxed. When she saw Lily, she pulled the hood up, framing her face with the costume's white teeth, and waggled her head. Cute, right? Want to get a matching one with me? Lily looked her up and down. I already have pajamas. Besides, if she bought one, Lucas would definitely want one too, and then all three of them doing the same thing. No, absolutely not. And she didn't think Lucas would like this style anyway. He probably preferred button-ups. They were more convenient. Why aren't you at work? Didn't you have a meeting? She finally asked. What does it matter? I never go to company meetings anyway, Aaron said with a grin, turning back to her computer. Her job had always been like this. She was only responsible for keeping an eye on project progress. She had no interest or desire for management power. Besides, I'm the boss's girlfriend's best friend. No one dares to say a thing. Lily nodded and looked around the sparse apartment. What's it like living alone? Lonely and cold, of course. How can it compare to you, living with your boyfriend? Aaron trailed off, then glanced at her sideways. You two are living together every day. Don't tell me there's been no progress. What one? Spill it. Lily quickly turned her face away. And no progress, she stammered. We're totally innocent. We haven't done anything. Her face was bright red. She might as well have had the word lying tattooed on her forehead. Aaron's eye twitched. Steam was practically coming out of your ears. And you call that nothing? Then why are you blushing? It's hot in here. Come on, come on. It won't kill you to tell me. Aaron pressed, before turning back to her keyboard with a furious clatter. Nine-tailed vixen. Ari, how is Malphite? Even a real champion? I was 4-0, and he one-shot me. She silently cursed the garbage game, then let out a huff. Fine, don't tell me. I'll find out for myself sooner or later. You might not be able to, Lily said, her gaze dropping to Aaron's chest with a look of sincere pity. Aaron? Question mark. What are you playing? Lily asked, quickly changing the subject as she sat down next to her, watching the characters on the screen. It looked familiar, like the game Lucas had asked her to play for a minute when he was helping her move, but not quite the same. This one required movement. The other was just clicking. League of Legends. You've never seen Lucas play? Aaron asked, and without waiting for an answer, she slyly flashed her level 7 mastery emote. Lily shook her head. He doesn't really play games much anymore. He just keeps telling me to play. The first half of that sentence didn't surprise Aaron. Ever since she'd learned to draw, she'd lost her taste for looking at lewd art. She used to like anything beautiful, but now she was too critical. The lighting was off, the anatomy was wrong. But the second half of Lily's sentence made her sit up straight. Lucas is trying to get you to play games? Was that even possible? She blinked, trying to process the logic. From a selfish guy's perspective, the old, submissive Lily was the perfect girlfriend material. No hobbies, no spending, no someone who would just quietly endure anything. But clearly, Lucas didn't think that way. It seemed he just wanted Lily to be happy. He could be a real bastard sometimes, but when it came to this, he was serious. The word gentle wasn't enough to describe Lily. And good guy didn't even begin Lucas. The two of them together. Aaron glanced at Lily's focused profile, the light from the monitor in her clear eyes. As Lily's only best friend, she hated to admit it, but the two of them were a perfect match. Damn it, she was jealous. Quick, who do you like more, me or Lucas? Do you want the truth or a lie? You don't have to answer. Aaron bit her lip and pointed at the screen. Want to play? I can teach you. This game is really fun. Aaron coaxed. When Emma's done with her exams, the three of us can squad up. She's an amazing Yasuo. Lily looked down, twisting her fingers. I have a lot to do. I probably don't have time. Before, when you were working non-stop to support your family and pay for your mom's treatment, you didn't have time. But your mom's almost better now, isn't she? Aaron's voice grew more serious. She'd always found it strange that even as things got better, Lily hadn't changed as she'd expected. She wasn't out shopping or binging shows or playing games with her. Now she finally understood what felt off. The crisis had passed, but Lily hadn't relaxed. Seeing Lily's resistance, she fell silent for a moment. Then she spoke softly. You used to feel like you had all these burdens on your shoulders, that you weren't allowed to have things you wanted to do. That made sense then, but things are different now. You need to let go of all that baggage, Lily. Let the past be the past. It's not wrong to have hobbies, to do things for yourself. You don't owe anyone an apology for it. Lily's gaze dropped, but Aaron placed a hand on Lily's shoulder, meeting her gentle eyes with a matching softness. She took a deep breath, then slowly, deliberately, unzipped her onesie just enough to point a finger over her heart. I've been sick since I was a kid, she said. I used to be just like my parents, worried all the time if tomorrow would come. So I just focused on all the things I had to do, constantly questioning if any of it had meaning. I wasn't happy for a single day until my mom begged me, through her tears, to just do things that made me happy. She glanced at the post-game screen, then her gaze to the window. Outside, the sky was a brilliant cloudless blue. Sunlight streamed onto the balcony, turning it a shade of gold. A slow smile spread across her face. After that, I figured it out. Life doesn't have some grand meaning. Or maybe this moment, right here, is the meaning. You have to slow down, or you'll miss the scenery all around you. A glint of tears appeared in Erin's eyes, but was gone as quickly as it came, replaced by her usual carefree grin. Besides, don't you want to have more in common with Lucas? I guarantee you, no guy can resist a girlfriend who's willing to play games with him. He'll be completely obsessed with you. Why are you all so good to me? Lily asked, genuinely curious. Both Lucas and Erin were constantly pushing her to do things for herself. It's because you're so good to us. The moment you walked for over an hour through the dark at 3 in the morning, so scared you were crying, just to see me in the hospital, and told me with red eyes that it was okay. You weren't scared. That was the moment you became my friend for life. You were the one who got me through the time I most wanted to give up. Erin smiled at the memory. Even if you ask Lucas, you'll get a similar answer. The kindness we show you is just a reflection of your own. You've earned it. So please be happy, Lily. You deserve it more than anyone. Lily was silent for a while. She reached out as if to touch Erin's scar, but stopped her hand mid-air. I'm glad you made it through, she said softly. Yeah, I got through the hardest part, and you got through yours too, right? I did. The idea seemed incredible to Lily. Her past was something she didn't just avoid thinking about. It was a place she couldn't bear to revisit. Of course, we're both amazing. Especially you. You had it so much harder than me. After Erin disappeared into her bedroom, the living room fell quiet. Lily tidied up the messy desk, then sat twisting a strand of hair around her finger, lost in thought. After a moment, she took out her phone and opened her most used chat. Lily, did you get a new phone? Lucas, I did. Got the latest and greatest, of course. Lily didn't get the joke, but replied anyway. Erin told me I should slow down and experience life, but I don't know how. Lucas, when you stop thinking about the question, you'll have slowed down. Hugging _face _emoji. Lily's cheeks puffed out. She flopped onto the desk with a sigh. It felt like Lucas had said something profound, but also nothing at all. As much as she hated to admit it, she didn't understand. But she couldn't possibly text him back and say, I didn't get that. Can you explain? He would tease her about it for the rest of her life. Let's go to your place. Just then, Erin emerged from the bedroom, holding a laptop. Let's go play at your apartment. Her serious mood had lasted less than 5 minutes. The moment Lily stepped back in her own apartment, a sense of peace washed over her. It was strange how this little rental had started to feel so much like home. Seeing Erin, Dottie, who had been eating from her automatic feeder, shot off and hid on the balcony, not even daring to peek out. Why the long face? Erin asked as she bent down to take off her shoes, noticing Lily's solemn expression. Lucas was bullying me. Erin sighed. You're just too easy to bully. If you had any way of fighting back, he wouldn't dare. Sometimes I hit him with my head, Lily said with complete seriousness, as if she had a secret weapon. With your head. Erin tilted her own, utterly bewildered. How do you do that? Try it on me. She couldn't imagine how that would be intimidating. Wouldn't Lily just give herself concussion? Lily looked hesitant. Are you sure? Erin snorted and tapped her own forehead. Come on, let me experience it. Okay, I'll be gentle. No need. Who do you think you're looking at? After a loud groan, Erin Thompson flopped on her back, staring blankly at the ceiling. She bit her lip with a canine tooth, and a moment later, 2 lines of tears streamed from the corners of her eyes. There's definitely a lump on my forehead now. It hurts so much. How is Lily completely fine? Isn't every action supposed to have an equal and opposite reaction? We should be in the same amount of pain. The thought sent her into a catatonic state. Physics no longer existed. Lily, startled, quickly knelt beside Erin and helped her up. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I'm fine. Erin shook her head quickly. It's not your fault. I bit off more than I could chew. Although it still hurt enough to make her want to cry, The thought that Lucas would have to live under the shadow of Lily's headbutts for the next several decades irked to her face. Heh, that jerk of a boss, always docking my pay. Go get him, Lily. Ram him in next week. After gloating internally, she wobbled to her feet and stumbled over to the computer desk, fiddling with a black tower. This desktop is Lucas's, right? Lily nodded. It's the one he used in high school. He's letting me borrow it now. Erin's interest was instantly piqued. Her eyes went wide as she slammed the power button. Then she started rubbing her hands together like a fly, an unstoppable grin spreading across her face. Seeing her expression, Lily grew curious. Why are you so excited? High school. Lucas was a teenage boy back then. Erin's voice grew more animated. His computer has to be full of stuff he doesn't want anyone to see. Have you ever done a deep dive? This was a teenage boy at the peak of his hormonal life. 99 out of 100 had seen those kinds of movies. The last one would just deny it to his dying day. Lily shook her head, completely lost. She hadn't just not searched. Her computer illiteracy meant her explorations had been limited to the desktop icons. And besides, even if there was something inappropriate for kids, it was Lucas's privacy. You couldn't just look at it. But high school, it was a shame she'd never seen him back then. She'd only known him as a little boy, and by the time they met again, he was already grown up. The middle was a complete blank. This doesn't feel right. Lucas might get angry, Lily said, snapping out of her thoughts and trying to intervene. What's the big deal? You're his girlfriend. Investigating this stuff puts you on the moral high ground. Later, if you two ever fight, you can ask him why. If you're together, he still has pictures of other women on his computer. See how he argues with you then. A triumphant smirk played on Erin's lips. Once I find it, you can study it yourself. I'm not interested in your boyfriend's hobbies. Lucas and I don't fight. I get it. Shut up. As soon as the computer booted up, Erin impatiently opened a certain wallpaper application on Steam and skillfully started filtering through the content. Nope. Definitely nope. Unfortunately, there was nothing. Erin pinched her chin and let out a long hiss. Something's not right. She clicked open a folder and was met with a screen full of photos. Without exception, every single one was of Lily. You had to admit, Lucas had a real eye for photography, and Lily was genuinely beautiful. You could pull any random picture from the collection and use it as a wallpaper. It was just, the sheer quantity was a bit much. Was he using Lily as a model? This was stalker-level dedication. He took this many pictures of you. Erin forgot her original mission, her eyes scanning photo after photo. My hand is getting tired from scrolling, and I'm still not at the end. There are so many. Lily nodded, then started counting on her fingers. He was afraid of losing them, so he has a copy on his phone, a copy on his own computer, a copy on this computer, and then he also had them printed out for a photo album. He wanted to document every single day of you, didn't he? Erin murmured. While two adjacent photos didn't show much difference, when you looked at pictures taken further apart, the change in Lily's expression was obvious. Anyone could see that this goofball was getting happier and happier. As her confidence grew, she had even become more beautiful. Every tiny change in Lily was probably proof of Lucas's efforts. This was, without a doubt, an album dedicated solely to Lily. But wasn't it also a collection of his own achievements? Damn, I have to say, that guy is a true romantic, Erin said, suddenly feeling a little indignant. Actually, you could learn from him, so you don't forget what he looks like now. I'll never forget. I might not remember every sunrise and sunset. Lily looked lovingly at the photo of the two of them on her phone's lock screen, a soft smile on her lips. But I remember what he looked like every single day. Erin had nothing to say to that. She rummaged through every folder, large and small, but still came up empty. Could Lucas's methods for hiding those kinds of movies be even more advanced than hers? Or had he anticipated this day all along? Let's just play a game. Lily still felt this was wrong. She never even looked at Lucas's phone. How could she go through something like this? Don't you want to understand your boyfriend's tastes? Erin poked her on the forehead. You're so dense. Know yourself, know your enemy, and you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. If you don't research this stuff, you won't even know if he prefers black or white stockings. How are you supposed to surprise him then? I know, Lily mumbled. She was very smart, actually. She had bought a pair of each right from the start. You actually know? Erin's jaw nearly hit the floor. Were those two getting up to that much behind closed doors? Under Erin's scrutinizing gaze, Lily's cheeks burned. She shook her head frantically. I don't know. I don't know anything. Erin took a deep breath, thinking as if solving a math problem. She then opened the drive with the largest memory usage and began her familiar routine. View. Show. Hidden items. Lily, standing beside her, was completely stunned. Isn't Aaron a little too good at this? Every guy's taste in this area is different. Don't you want your boyfriend to like you even more? I do. Lily answered immediately, without thinking. But she bit her lip again. But isn't this going too far? We're engaged in righteous critique. How can you call that going too far? As she was searching, Aaron's phone buzzed in her pocket. Hey, Chloe, what's up? Make it quick. I'm in the middle of something. What? I told you the character skins have to have backgrounds. Why else would people pay for them? They're getting this lazy over the holiday break. They're just waiting for Lucas to tear them a new one. Fine, I'll do it. I'm on my way back now. Aaron sighed with regret and shrugged at Lily. About to run to the studio. When I'm done, we can hop on a voice chat and play a game. Okay. After seeing Aaron off, Lily sat wearily back down at the computer. She was about to close the folders on the screen when her eyes landed on a previously hidden folder. Study materials. Completely oblivious to the ordeal he was facing, the master tactician himself, Lucas Carter, had just gotten out of Jason Miller's car. He sized up the large letters spelling out Seattle General Hospital. Although he declined the whole hero award thing, Jason was still determined to help Ryan Brooks out. Since Ryan was planning on taking the LSATs, having something like this on his record was better than nothing. The guy might not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but throughout college, he was one of the few who would voluntarily bring back food for his roommates without being asked. Besides Jason, Ryan did it the most. Only someone who's lived in a dorm and seen all kinds of characters knows what a top-tier roommate that makes him. You sure you don't want in on this? You get an award, and the girl might even be grateful to you, Jason said, confirming one last time after parking the car. Lucas shot him a look. Are you an idiot? Why the hell would I want some random girl to be grateful to me? To piss Lily off. Besides, he hadn't jumped in for some heroic rescue in the first place. It had been so dark he couldn't even tell if it was a man or a woman, let alone what species of creature he was saving. He glanced around, a small smile playing on his lips. Funny how things come full circle. The park he used to frequent as a kid was less than 200 steps away. People were creatures of nostalgia. Thinking about his life now, he really did feel like he was revisiting a sacred place. His younger self would have never imagined that the little crybaby girl would grow up to be his wife. Well, not wife yet. He still had work to do. Jason found his behavior odd and scratched his head. What's so special about this place? The park next door is where Lily and I's love story began. Jason's mouth twitched. He felt like an idiot for even asking. Yeah, I know, you two are fated childhood sweethearts, a total power couple. Can you just knock it off? Let's get this over with. He tugged at his collar and shot a look at Ryan, signaling for him to join in the condemnation. So gross. Ryan couldn't help but mutter, his voice laced with acid, as if a lemon had just exploded in his brain. It was bad enough that Lucas Carter found love around the corner, but it had to be a fated childhood sweetheart. And she had to be gorgeous. And on top of that, she had to have a great personality. The more Ryan thought about it, the more he felt his previous attack wasn't nearly strong enough. Who wouldn't be jealous? The term fated childhood sweetheart should be listed alongside hot tutor and the head cheerleader in the top 10 male fantasy girlfriends. As for the other 7, Ryan didn't know. He hadn't thought them up yet. Lucas just snorted, shrinking his neck against a gust of cold wind before leading the way into the hospital. A few officials from some department or another were already waiting at the door of the hospital room. Please come in. The man in the lead shook Lucas's hand and then gestured toward the door. Lucas nodded slightly and followed them inside. The first thing he saw was a short-haired girl leaning against the hospital bed, staring blankly out the window. She looked like a classic good girl, the kind who wouldn't stand out in a crowd. About 0.6 of an Aaron, maybe. Standing next to her was a middle-aged woman with big, curly hair, nagging her relentlessly. I don't know why you have to be so stubborn. Do you think Mom and Dad would ever hurt you? Even if we get mad and yell at you, it's for your own good. The woman spoke earnestly. You go out and see. Who else in this world cares about you besides us? I know, the girl nodded. As long as you know. Here, drink the chicken soup. The woman finally noticed the group that had entered, quickly placing the bowl on the bedside table and forcing a smile. Outside the room. You better not screw this up when you go in there. You hear me? Jason smacked Ryan on the back of the head. Then the two of them followed Lucas into the room. The official identification process was simple. After all, they were identifying a savior, not a criminal, so it didn't need to be overly formal. Having someone present to confirm was enough. The extra people were purely a courtesy to Jason, the rich kid. After the procedure was done, the room quickly quieted down. Go on, thank them, the woman said, nudging the girl and pointing at the 3 men standing nearby. The girl finally reacted, looking up to scan Lucas, who was exchanging glances with Jason, and then Ryan, who was fidgeting and scratching his neck. She spoke softly, thank you. Don't include me. He's the one who pulled you out. I was just providing technical support. I didn't do any of the work, Lucas said truthfully. Although if he hadn't been there, Ryan probably would have been playing the part of the fool trying to rescue his grandpa from the snake demons. The fact was, Lucas hadn't exerted any physical effort. Thank you, she said again, this time to Ryan. Besides Jason, she had a hazy memory of these two. One was handsome, and the other had called her a psycho. Ryan, already on edge, grew even more awkward. He glanced at the girl, then quickly looked away, pretending to be nonchalant. It was nothing. Happy to help. After a few minutes of small talk, the woman answered a phone call, pointed at her cell, and stepped outside. Ryan wanted to wipe the sweat from his palms, remembered the bag of fruit he was holding, and quickly asked, "Do you want a clementine?" "My mom won't let me eat them. It's too cold." Perhaps feeling that was rude, the girl pulled a few cartons of milk, warmed in a container of hot water, from her lunchbox. "You guys can have these." "I'm allergic to milk," Lucas said with a straight face. Jason, seeing his planned excuse stolen, shot Lucas a dirty look. He couldn't come up with a new reason on the spot, and just said awkwardly, "Me too." The two of them found an excuse to slip out of the room and huddled near the nurse's station, whispering, "My mom won't let me." Jason mimicked in a high-pitched voice. "This girl seems like a total mama's girl." "I've only ever heard of a mama's boy," Lucas said, his face impassive as he watched people walk by in the distance. "But I think I'm starting to understand why she jumped into the river. It wasn't just about judging a book by its cover. Sometimes, after a few words and observing someone's habits, you could get a pretty good sense of who they are." He couldn't say he understood her completely, but he had a general idea. The parent was a typical parent, and the child was inevitably a typical child. Those words, "it's for your own good," were so insidious. They could fool others, and even the person saying them. In the end, it wasn't much different from "I don't care what you think, I only care what I think," just another brand of stubbornness. If his mind had been filled with "it's for your own good" when it came to Lily, her emotional baggage would have probably never been unpacked. If Lily hadn't taken the initiative to tell him everything that was on her mind after the convention, he never would have thought of it. He would have remained fixated on giving Lily a better life, shielding her from pressure, letting her stay behind him where she wouldn't have to do anything, and therefore wouldn't have to face anything. But in the end, that was just a gilded cage, not what Lily wanted, and not what he truly wanted either. But he had almost convinced himself that was what was best for her, even while she was trying so hard to keep up with him. A shiver of fear ran down Lucas's spine. Thank God Lily was actually very smart. Unlike other girls, she would always take the initiative to communicate what was on her mind instead of making him, her boyfriend, guess under the guise of some test of love. Where if he guessed right, it was a sign of their telepathic connection, and if he guessed wrong, it meant he didn't love her enough, didn't understand her. The more Lucas thought about it, the more he felt like he'd hit the jackpot. With that, he turned back to Jason. "You were talking about getting engaged last year. How come you haven't yet?" Jason, who had just been glared at by a nurse for trying to light a cigarette, put it away and sighed deeply. "It's complicated." "What happened?" Although Jason had been thoroughly intimidated by his future father-in-law, the whole meeting the parents thing had gone smoothly overall. Normally, most couples would start planning the wedding at that point. "Nothing major. It's just after things calm down, I realize there's more and more to consider." Jason rubbed his nose, looking troubled. "My family is a mess. Getting married just feels like something's missing. A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime thing, you know? I don't want Vanessa to have any regrets." "Sounds tough." "Yeah, for now. I'll just focus on what to get her for her birthday. I'm not like you. I've always been a take it one step at a time kind of guy." Lucas paused, a little dazed. A year ago, they were roasting each other over losing a ranked game. "Talking about marriage now." "Leave that guy in there," Jason said after a moment, glancing back at the hospital room. "Let's go. We still haven't finished sorting out the documents for the lawsuit." When it came to the company's strategy against Montgomery Holdings, Jason and Aaron had always been the most aggressive, wishing for the rival company's bankruptcy daily. Lucas, Leo, and a few others were more conservative, thinking the aggressive faction was still being too conservative. "You go ahead. I'm going to stop by Professor Yin's place," Lucas said, shaking his head. "He still hasn't agreed to help us." "What's the point?" Jason's face was etched with disdain. At the rate Lucas was visiting, you'd think he could have melted an iceberg by now. But all Lucas had to show for it was being allowed inside the door. Jason himself had been kicked out before he even got in. The old geezer was surprisingly standoffish. Lucas waved a hand without looking back. "Help or not, it doesn't matter. The old man is all alone. Since I'm in the neighborhood, I'm just going to check on him. It was nearly evening when Lucas got home. The sky was dimming, and the cold wind felt sharp against his face. The atmosphere was exceptionally quiet. The kids who were usually playing outside at this time in the summer were nowhere to be seen. Only a single lamp was on in the living room. Lily was sitting bolt upright at the computer, her back perfectly straight. She would occasionally glance down at the keyboard, but mostly she stared motionlessly at the screen, her whole body tense. Dottie's domain had expanded a bit. She now occasionally napped on the desk, which is exactly what she was doing now. "What are you up to?" "So focused," Lucas asked, leaning in beside her. "Ah." Lily jumped, startled. She patted her chest, then pointed at the screen. "Playing a game." Lucas shifted his gaze to the monitor. Lily had just respawned after watching the black and white death screen. He took a closer look. Well, Malphite, the shard of monolith. This champion suits you. Using a rock monster to fight bots. This dork must have been tricked by Aaron. Convince her to play the walking rock, then Aaron gets to play Yasuo. "Are you making fun of me?" Lily felt there was something odd about Lucas's tone. "Not at all." Lucas suppressed a laugh. "Don't you ram into me all the time? This champion's ultimate is all about ramming into people." Seeing that she had respawned, Lily looked down at the keyboard again, placed her fingers on the corresponding keys, and then looked back at the screen. "When I get good, I can carry you to a win." The girl's tone was serious, but for some reason, she wouldn't meet his eyes. "I look forward to it." Lucas pulled a chair from the dining table and sat next to her, ready to observe his girlfriend's battle of wits with the AI. When I first started playing, I played against bots until I hit level 30 before I dared to play against real people. I'm going to wait until I'm better before I play against people," Lily said, her expression as focused as ever. "I don't want to drag my team down." "Do you know how many players you'd move to tears with that statement?" Lucas asked, raising an eyebrow. He scooted closer and wrapped an arm around her slim waist, breathing in her unique, faint scent. Lily shivered, but didn't resist. That's when he saw her in-game ID, Lillipad. Figures. Same username across all platforms. Just then, a new message popped up in the chat box in the bottom left corner. "Enemy team feeds. Master, I'm literally dying to the tower. Why didn't you use your heal? You like watching the show? Lillipad, Malphite sorry, it's my first day playing." The chat fell silent for a moment. "Enemy team feeds. Master E, it's cool. Take your time. You got this." "My bad, I was playing too aggressive." Lucas couldn't help but chuckle. I bet that guy's going to wake up in the middle of the night and slap himself. A player who apologizes in this community was rarer than a giant panda. He wasn't sure if it was his imagination, but while Lily hadn't gotten many kills, her last hitting on the minions was pretty solid. He probably wasn't even that good when he first started. The game wasn't as popular as it used to be. Back when he started, it was at its peak. You couldn't find a single person in an arcade who wasn't playing it. After all, besides the terrible balancing, endless bugs, cash grab events, garbage loot boxes, and toxic environment, it was a pretty fun game. The bizarre variety of teammates was one of its main features, a true showcase of biodiversity that had to be experienced. After the bot game ended, Lily sat back in her chair and let out a deep sigh. "Why so glum?" Lucas asked curiously. He glanced at the stats. All 6 of her kills were from ramming people with her ultimate. "Not bad, actually." Lily pressed her lips together and lowered her head, her fingers fidgeting. I think games are really fun." "Games are supposed to be fun. What's there to be sad about?" "I feel like I'm going to become a degenerate who wastes her life away." Lily gripped his hand tightly, her fingertips tracing patterns on the back of it. Lucas's mouth twitched. "Don't worry. You and those words will never be associated in this lifetime." "Really? What do you find so fun about it?" Lily pointed to the red minions in a tutorial video. "Look, this little minion is worth 21 gold. The range ones are 14 gold. An enemy champion is 300. If I get that gold, I can buy better items and earn even more gold. You just keep earning, and then you win. And besides all that, it's just fun." She vaguely sensed that Lucas's expression was off. She bit her lip guiltily and buried her face in his chest with a little whimper. "Okay, fine. I just want to play with you." Silly dork. Lucas felt like Lily had a fundamental misunderstanding of the game, yet had somehow grasped its very essence. Could she actually be a genius? The moment Lucas returned, Lily lost all interest in the game. She snuggled in his arms for a while before heading to the kitchen to make dinner. They had sautéed peppers and coconut chicken soup. It was the first time Lucas had tried the soup. He had no idea when she had learned to make it. As they ate, Lucas spoke up. "You've been acting weird today." He had noticed her stealing glances at him again, only to blush and quickly look away. What was going on with this girl? Lily bit her chopsticks, then looked up at him, flustered. In nothing. I just didn't realize you loved studying so much in high school. Lucas, explain yourself. How did the topic suddenly jump to him loving to study? Lucas was completely baffled. I wouldn't say I loved it, but if I hadn't buckled down, I wouldn't have gotten into UW, would I? Lily's cheeks puffed out. She rested her chin on her hand and continued to avoid his gaze. I'll do the dishes. After a moment's hesitation, she decided to drop the subject, picking up their plates and walking slowly into the kitchen. The more I say, the more I'll mess up, and it'll just make me look like a dork. It's probably more intimidating if I just don't say anything. I'm not as smart as Lucas, so I can't win an argument with him. But if I don't give him a chance to talk his way out of it, then he can't talk his way out of it, can he? Plan complete. Lucas, still at the table, felt a sudden chill run down his spine, making him antsy. He sucked in a sharp breath and glanced at the computer on the desk. Could she have seen something she wasn't supposed to? No way. He deleted most of it, and the rest was hidden. Hidden so deep, only a guy would typically know how to find it. If Lily had really seen it, then all of his preferences would be completely exposed. Fortunately, Lily's tech skills were still at the level of deleting shortcuts and downloading everything to the C drive. There was no way she could have found it. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. He had to be overthinking it. Lucas breathed a silent sigh of relief and moved to the sofa, grabbing a book to distract himself. As much as he wanted to check the computer, it would look too guilty and might make Lily suspicious. For now, it was better to pretend he knew nothing. Sometime later, Lily emerged from the kitchen after finishing the dishes. She rubbed her wet hands on his face until his cheeks were damp, then smiled with satisfaction. She really was an adorable dork. You're not going to play more games? Lucas asked, his lips forced into a pout. What's more fun than my boyfriend? Like she discovered a new toy, Lily's fingers started pinching and prodding his face, making him pull all sorts of funny expressions. She was having a great time. Lucas felt that being teased like this by a dork was making him look foolish. He put on a stern face and said, Miss Thompson, your current actions are extremely dangerous. Don't blame me for what happens next. At his words, Lily jumped back like a startled deer, grabbing a throw pillow and hugging it tightly in front of her, her eyes wide with caution. She looked like she was about to call the police. You're making me look like a creep who's about to have his way with you. You are, Lily retorted righteously, curled up in a ball at the other end of the sofa. She then glanced down at her own slender legs and feet, and, as if remembering something, quickly tucked them away, not daring to even show her toes. Lucas hesitated for a moment, then pointed at the computer. That. Before he could finish, Lily lunged forward and covered his mouth, her face crimson as she pleaded, Don't say it. Don't say it. Lucas blinked, his eyes widening in shock. Well, that settled it. No need for any subtle probing. If someone were to ask him what he would do if he had 10 seconds left to live, he would say he'd format his computer and phone. A man had to leave this world with his dignity intact. But now his dignity was gone. All of his preferences had been laid bare for his girlfriend to see. She really saw it. How is that even possible? Is this dork a computer genius? The usually calm master strategist was internally screaming. He couldn't for the life of him figure out how Lily had managed it. After the blush on Lily's face began to fade, she let out a slow breath. It seemed she still had no intention of letting him speak. Keeping his mouth covered, she leaned in closer until they were face to face. At this distance, Lucas could see the shimmer of moisture that had gathered in her eyes from embarrassment, now welling up like a tiny wave. You don't talk. If you talk, I won't be able to speak. Just listen to me first, okay? Lucas glanced down, signaling that he couldn't talk even if he wanted to. Lily averted her gaze, leaving him with only the side of her face, half hidden by her hair. She stammered, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone through your computer. Lucas's eyes blinked blankly. He never would have guessed that Lily's first move would be to cover his mouth, much less that her first words would be an apology. He had expected condemnation, or questions, or at least the silent treatment. But instead, she apologized first. He shook his head, indicating it was okay. I'm going to take a shower. After a long pause, the girl fled into the bathroom. The night deepened. Lucas was sorting through documents until after 11 before he finally returned to the bedroom. Lily, an early-to-bed, early-to-rise person, was usually asleep by this time. Moonlight streamed through the window, draping a thin veil over her. In the dimness, he could only make out the soft curves of her body, making her already lovely figure even more alluring. Are you asleep? He asked softly after lying down. No. How about? In your dreams. I haven't even finished. I know what you're thinking. Lily's voice was uncharacteristically sharp. She had thought their last intimate night was already pushing it, but she never expected. It was too lewd. I was really just going to say, how about I hold you while we sleep? Lucas said with perfect sincerity, a hint of grievance in his tone, because this time, that's genuinely all he was thinking. Oh, I'm sorry, Lily replied softly, voluntarily snuggling closer into his arms. It's nothing to freak out about. We're boyfriend and girlfriend, and we're not exactly innocent anymore. Someday, it will be like in the movies. Lily gathered her courage, trying to make out Lucas's handsome face in the dark. She swallowed hard, her cheeks suddenly feeling hot enough to burn. She secretly placed a hand over her chest, trying to calm her racing heart. A moment later, she shook her head again. She had to hold the line until her mom was fully recovered. Good thing she had standards. She wasn't a total pushover. With that thought, she snuggled even deeper into his embrace, closing her eyes contentedly once they were pressed tightly together. She felt his hand, which had been resting on her waist, begin to slowly wander upward. She tolerated it for a moment, pretending not to notice. Lucas was just being mischievous, taking small liberties. He wasn't at the point of devouring her whole just yet, as long as he was happy. A little while later, seeing that he was getting more and more into it, Lily couldn't take it anymore. Aren't you supposed to be sleeping? The girl sat up, biting her lip plaintively and questioning him in a soft voice. I am asleep, Lucas said, quickly shutting his eyes to feign ignorance. I have a habit of sleep groping. Lily seemed to remember something. She leaned close to his ear and whispered, Today when I want to see Aaron, she insisted on experiencing feels like when I headbutt you. I swear I didn't use much force, but she still got a huge bump on her forehead. Good night, Lucas said flatly. He then lay there, motionless as a mummy. Lily didn't react for a second. Then a sweet smile spread across her face, the corners of her eyes crinkling. She lay back down beside him and pulled one of his hands behind her back. I never said you really couldn't. But next time you want to touch, can you lie down earlier? I get really sleepy. A while later, Lucas's eyes opened again in the darkness. Listening to the gentle rhythm of the girl's breathing beside him, he stared at the ceiling, his conscience pricked by guilt. Now he really couldn't sleep. For the next 2 days, Lucas helped Lily browse different models of electric scooters online. In the end, they decided to buy one from a physical store. It wasn't a cheap purchase, and Lily felt more secure buying it in person. In the evening, as dusk settled and the city lights began to glow, they got dressed and headed out, chatting as they walked down the stairs. On the ground floor, they ran into Mrs. Gable, the neighbor who had given them a festive banter for New Year's, coming home with her 20-something-year-old son. She was a kind old woman, her only flaw being that she was even more invested in Lucas's personal life than his own mother. Lucas vaguely recognized her kids. The older daughter was an academic advisor at UW, currently waiting for transfer, and this was her younger son, a programmer a few years older than him. Evening, Mrs. Gable, Lucas said with a friendly smile. He wasn't sure when he'd started sounding like one of those adults. Oh, hello, Mrs. Gable squinted, then looked at the shy, head-bowed Lily. Where are you two off to? Just running an errand, Lucas said, gently squeezing Lily's hand to signal her to greet the neighbor too. Politeness aside, change had to start with the little things. Lily had actually already mumbled a hello, but her voice was so quiet that only Lucas had heard it. Her courage wouldn't permit a second attempt. It was an area where her progress wasn't as obvious. She was still too shy around strangers. Emma, on the other hand, wouldn't have cared if you heard her or not. She would have cheerfully yelled until you acknowledged her or changed the subject to her. You two have been living together ever since the holidays. When are you going to set a date? We're taking it slow. We're not even old enough yet. You young people nowadays are in no rush. Back in my day, people our age already had kids. If you get married early, your parents are still young enough to help you with the baby. Lucas forced a smile and gestured toward Lily, whose face was beet red. Well, you have a good night. We've got to go. All right. Before Lucas could take a step, Lily was already dragging him out of the building. He's that much younger than me? He's not even old enough to get married? The bespectacled son muttered as he walked slowly up the stairs, glancing back. He and Lucas were on a casual greeting basis and had a decent impression of each other. But he'd always assumed from Lucas's demeanor that they were about the same age. Lucas, despite his youthful face, lacked any trace of immaturity. Most recent college grads, including his past self, had a certain wide-eyed naivete that made them look like easy targets. Lucas didn't have that. You have a nerve to talk. You, Mrs. Gable grew more incensed with every word, swatting at her son's back. He's found a girlfriend that beautiful at his age, and how many years have your blind dates been failing? Either you don't like them, or they don't like you. Is there anyone you know who isn't married yet? It's not good to marry someone too beautiful. They don't take care of the home, the son retorted, his voice souring as he recalled Lily's appearance. He'd never seen a girl that pretty in his entire life. Mrs. Gable clutched her chest, taking several deep breaths before her voice echoed through the stairwell. I'm not asking you to find someone that beautiful. You don't have his charisma anyway. I'd thank my lucky stars if you could just find a girlfriend who's as sensible and responsible as she is. Is that too much to ask? The more she thought, the angrier she got, and she smacked her son a few more times. That girl was in line at the supermarket a while back to get free eggs. Where's your girlfriend now, huh? Her words hit him like a series of body blows. He couldn't take it anymore and pleaded, Mom, please stop. I'll shut up, okay? I'll shut up. She's that beautiful and that frugal? How does all the good luck fall on that kid, Lucas? Oof. If you skip next month's blind date, I'm disowning you. Outside the building, Lucas stretched lazily. He was about to leave when Lily pulled him in front of her and started adjusting his collar. The shirt pills so easily. You should change out of it tomorrow. I'll clean it up for you, Lily said softly. You're so lazy, you know? The lint roller is right by the door, and you don't even use it. I'll buy you shirts made of a different fabric next time. He nodded silently, looking down at the girl whose gentle face was etched with concentration. He couldn't resist leaning down and planting a soft kiss on her forehead. She sounded exactly like a wife, and combined with that devastatingly pretty face, no man could withstand the 1-2 punch. Lily felt the kiss, and her hands paused for a moment. She lowered her head even further, hiding the slight curve of her lips. Her cheeks burned hotter than the fiery sunset in the sky. It was clear she knew exactly why he'd suddenly felt the urge to kiss her. Their destination was less than a mile away, so they decided to walk hand in hand. Lucas led Lily out of the complex, from the deepening twilight into the glow of the streetlights. A cool evening breeze blew, and in the distance, a spectacular sunset stretched across the horizon. It wasn't rush hour yet, so only a few cyclists passed them, their tinkling bells briefly breaking the quiet. He felt a deep sense of peace. Maybe this was what life was supposed to feel like. Thinking this, Lucas leaned closer to her and whispered, Since we're out, is there anything you're craving? We could grab a bite. Lily looked up and thought for a moment, then slowly shook her head. She never had much desire to eat out. If it was something like barbecue, which she hadn't learned to make yet, that was one thing. But for hot pot or stir-fry, she always felt it cost a lot of money and wasn't as good as what she made herself. Lucas sighed softly. I'm suddenly realizing how much money I save by being with you. He was starting to wonder where all these people who claimed dating was so expensive were coming from. He had a few $100,000 in his account, and even after investing a chunk in the company, he still had at least $300,000 left. And yet, he hadn't spent a dime of it. Take the basics: clothes, food, and home life. He never liked picking out his own clothes. For a long time now, Lily had been buying all of them, inside and out. Everyone said his fashion sense had improved dramatically. Then there was food. Many restaurants couldn't compete with her cooking, though maybe his burnout from takeout was a factor. But now, except for special occasions, he didn't even want to order in. The only real expense was when he went out with the team from work. Then there were the household supplies: toothpaste, toothbrushes, face wash, laundry detergent, body wash. He didn't buy any of it. He didn't even know what brand of detergent they were using. As for transportation, aside from gas, there were no other costs. Finally, there were gifts. Lily didn't wear makeup, so that saved a ton of money right there, and she never asked for anything. Since he'd known her, he'd only ever bought her one real bouquet of flowers. The rest were folded from paper, and she'd been overjoyed with them. His desire to spend money had dropped to an abysmal level. Other than saving up for a better house and a wedding, he didn't want to buy anything. So, rounding things out, besides the rent which he'd paid up front when they moved in, it was almost like he was being kept by her. The thought stopped Lucas in his tracks. His eyes darted back and forth. Lily used to joke about being his sugar mama, and he'd scoffed at it. But how different is this, really? He had been a frog, slowly boiled. What are you thinking about? Why that face? You look so silly. While Lucas was spacing out, Lily couldn't resist leaning in and poking his cheek. He snapped out of his stupor and stared at her delicate face. I feel like I'm earning all this money for nothing. What do you mean? Lily asked, blinking her clear eyes at him curiously. I feel like I'm earning it, but I can't spend it. Lucas poked her gently on the forehead. Spill it. How much money have you been spending on me behind my back? Lily rubbed her forehead and pouted. I haven't. Lucas scratched his head, a rare look of confusion on his face. You've seen it before. The TV at Jason's house alone could buy 10 of these scooters. I'm making more than him now, but my expenses aren't even higher than they were in college. It's weird. What does it matter if your expenses are high or low? Lily still didn't quite understand. She tilted her head at him and just asked, "Are you not happy right now?" "Of course I'm happy," Lucas said, stunned for a moment. He felt like he was living the dream every single day, and he supposed it really didn't have much to do with money. "Well, if you can't spend it all, then you should earn a little less. Don't work so hard. Ever since you started the company, the dark circles under your eyes haven't gone away," Lily said, walking beside him and fidgeting with her fingers. "I am very easy to take care of." "You're more than easy to take care of. You're already taking care of me. So you agree?" The girl's eyes lit up. "I promise I won't stay up late anymore," Lucas said, neither agreeing nor refusing. After all was said and done, he still had an obligation to give her a better life. He was the pillar of 2 families now, soon to be 3. He couldn't ignore reality. Just as he was thinking, his phone rang. It was Leo. "Hey, Lucas, are you sure the court isn't deliberately stalling? I'm seeing the other side pulling strings now. Someone said they sent people to Professor Yin's place recently, too." Leo paused, muttering. "They said it was a girl. I think her name was Lynn something." "Linda," Lucas supplied. Right. You're amazing, Lucas. You knew all along. And here I was, worrying for nothing." Lucas's mouth twitched. "It's not like I have spies everywhere. I just happen to know his daughter's name. Because I know her." He glanced at the growing number of scooters around them and pulled Lily to the inside of the sidewalk, away from the road. He then said, unconcerned, "Hurry, it won't work. I know what the old man is like now. Even if he doesn't help us, he'll never help them." "Huh. Other people don't even get a chance with the old man." Lucas felt a surge. "Stop worrying. We've gotten all the buzz we needed from stirring the pot. The court stalling is actually a good thing. Who knows? Maybe one day Professor Ian will have a change of heart and decide to back me up." "Okay, nothing else then. I'll send you the project progress summary tonight." "Sound good." Hanging up, Lucas sighed. Did Leo see him through some kind of special filter? The guy could spin a whole epic fantasy in his head. "Are you trying to LARP as a mastermind from an anime?" "You seem to take a lot of calls from him," Lily observed, pulling him closer to her and away from traffic. "You probably talked to him the longest, too." When Jason called, it was mostly to shoot the breeze. Work talk was minimal. This Leo guy was the opposite. All work, very little small talk. Because he's basically the one I delegate everything to. He's like my semi-secretary, Lucas explained softly. Leo was one of the founding members of the studio. Lucas trusted his character, they got along well, and no one was a better fit for the role. With Leo handling things, Lucas could spend a lot less time at the office. "Why don't you handle it yourself? Isn't it a hassle to discuss some things over the phone?" After asking, Lily saw the look he was giving her, like she was an idiot, and turned away, deciding to figure it out herself. "Yeah, I wonder why," Lucas muttered, a smirk tugging at his lips as he watched her thoughtful profile. Less than a mile from their apartment was a pedestrian street. By the time they arrived, night had completely fallen. Seattle seemed to have put on a different face, awash in dazzling neon lights. The street was crowded with people. Both sides were lined with food stalls and shops. Since it was still winter break, it was just slightly less than shoulder-to-shoulder packed. Lucas held Lily's hand as they walked, drawing glances from passersby. Before, the girl's expression was always timid, her head bowed as she walked. Now, that much of that feeling had faded, Lily naturally appeared even more beautiful in public. Today, she was wearing a white coat with a sash tied at the waist, over a black high-neck sweater. The outfit perfectly showcased her. Combined with her current aloof expression, anyone would think he was holding hands with a cool, sophisticated beauty. Sigh, ignorant mortals, only seeing the surface. Who would have thought that a girl who looked so unapproachable acted like a kitten, cuddling up to him every day? Lucas felt a secret thrill. Looking at her profile in the glow of the lights, he had to swallow hard. But how was this dork getting so good at dressing up? It was a little unfair. Lately, her style had been hitting him right in the bullseye, captivating him completely. "Are you trying to seem smarter by dressing in this more aloof style?" he asked. "Of course not." Lily turned her face away and grumbled. Lucas looked down at how she was clutching his arm like a nervous sloth and couldn't help but tease, "I think dressing so coolly while clinging to your boyfriend like this just makes you look even sillier." Fine, I won't hold on then." Lily pulled her hand away, turning her face to the side and refusing to look at him. She didn't even have a habit of dressing up. She'd specifically bought this outfit because she thought he liked this style. Who else was she going to wear it for? But then he had to go and call her silly. Unfair. She was ignoring him. "You're really not going to hold on? I'm putting my hands back in my pockets, you know. It's cold." Lucas wiggled his right hand with a mischievous grin. Seeing no reaction from Lily, he held up 3 fingers and started a countdown. 3. Before he could even finish the word, Lily had already taken his hand back, her expression aggrieved. The dork hadn't even lasted a second. Lily kept her face turned away as she walked, just her left hand holding his. She looked unbelievably cute. You just know I'm a lost cause. She muttered pitifully. You're the only person in the world who can say they're a lost cause with such confidence. Lucas chuckled. He knew she wasn't really angry, but he hugged her arm just like she had been hugging his. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Oomph. Lily fought back a smile, finally letting out a little snort. I'm not going to forgive you that easily. Lucas thought to himself that her acting was getting better and better. He leaned closer to her ear and asked cooperatively, Then what will it take for you to forgive me? Lily glanced around, then pulled Lucas into a deserted alleyway. She held out her hand, the back of it facing him. Her cheeks were nearly purple with blush as she finally managed to squeeze out, You unless you kiss it. She wiggled her slender hand. Kiss it right here. Lucas looked at her profile, framed by her soft hair, and blinked in stunned silence. Are you really this much of a pushover? The alley was dark and exceptionally quiet. At its mouth, the bright lights illuminated a stream of passing pedestrians, a bustling world away from where they stood. Lucas brought his gaze back to her, gently taking her fingertips. Even in the dim light, Lily's hand looked fair and delicate. Her fingers were long and slender, her nails a translucent, rounded shape. Though her hand looked thin, it felt soft to the touch. Like a budding reed, skin like cream. He had a strange urge to lick it. This girl could use her own hands as a reference for her art. It's a shame she's not a hand model. Lily saw him studying her hand like a precious treasure and grew shy. Her voice trembled as she asked, Why are you staring? Your hands are this beautiful, and I'm not allowed to look? Lucas retorted, Then, you can look. Lucas felt his words weren't quite right and corrected himself. No, others can't look. Only your boyfriend can. Lily's beautiful eyes blinked twice before she nodded emphatically. Okay. Lucas smiled, raised her hand, and knelt before her in the twilight. He slowly bowed his head and placed a gentlemanly kiss on the back of her hand. Perhaps it was a bit overly formal, but since she was finally expressing a wish that a girl her age should have, he was determined to do it perfectly. His girlfriend hadn't even had her 20th birthday yet. She shouldn't have been forced by life to be so mature. Just as Lucas was thinking this, Lily froze, completely mesmerized. This was a scene that, as a girl, she had dreamed of experiencing. Lucas was already handsome, and his earnest, gentle action was almost too much for her to handle. The moment his lips touched the back of her hand, her heart seemed to skip a beat, just like the night they first met. They say that after being together for a long time, the novelty fades. But whenever she saw Lucas, her heart still couldn't help but race. Even after all this time, that flutter of excitement was still buried deep inside her, like fine wine that, instead of fading with time, only grew more mellow and profound. Would it fade a little once they were actually married? Or would it last for 10, 20 years, or even longer? Lily didn't know. All she knew was that she was hopelessly smitten. So handsome. In the silence, Lucas thought he heard her soft voice. What did you say? He asked, looking up. I said you're so handsome, Lily repeated in a shy whisper. Seeing him staring at her blankly, she quickly lowered her head. Don't look at me like that. I'm going to die of embarrassment. It's not my fault I'm not being coy. It's his fault for being so good to me, for making me like him so much. Yes, Lucas is the one tempting me. He's the one after my body. What else can I do? I'm just a victim, a helpless girl. Even if Lucas suddenly decided to carry me home and kiss my hand every day, or do something even more outrageous, I guess I'd just have to go along with it. The master tactician had no idea the frog brain had completely short-circuited. He just chuckled to himself. He'd received plenty of compliments on his looks over the years, but hearing it from Lily was the most gratifying. This was the first time since they'd met that she had actually called him handsome. Just as he was about to stand, he saw her extend her other hand. What's wrong? This hand is jealous. You want one too? All right. Just as before, Lucas kissed the back of her other hand. Then he stood up, pressed the blushing girl against the wall, and blew a puff of warm air next to her ear, a wicked grin on his face. I think your lips are probably feeling jealous too. Seeing her shiver from the warm breath as she always did, he was about to lean in for a kiss when Lily pressed a fingertip to his lips. You're right, she said sweetly, but that will have to wait until we get home. Damn, this dork is really getting good at this. Lucas's lips curled up in spite of himself. He was about to say something more when he caught a glimpse of another couple at the other end of the alley, locked in a tight embrace, passionately making out in the dark. Is this a contest to see who can be the biggest creep? He thought. Good thing I just kissed her hand. As soon as the thought crossed his mind, he heard Lily whisper urgently, "Let's go, let's go." Lily pushed him out of the dark alley, and the two of them walked down the street as if nothing had happened. As a master of the long game, his expression was calm, but the blush on Lily's cheeks refused to fade. As they entered a more crowded area, the girl held onto his arm even tighter, as if trying to shrink into his embrace. You've been through the chaos of the convention. A crowd this size still scares you. I'm not scared, it's just a little uncomfortable, Lily said, leaning her head on his shoulder. If you weren't here, I'd be scared. Just think of strangers as NPCs, Lucas said, nonchalantly scanning their surroundings. In reality, everyone you meet is just a reflection of yourself. Your idea of what others think of you is just your own thoughts. The girl shivered. Don't say such creepy things at night. Think about it. You have no idea what other people are really thinking of you. It's all just your own projection. If you say one more word, I'm going to ram you. Lily still thought he was talking about something terrifying. Everyone is a reflection of me? That sounds like a sci-fi horror story. Huh, you're only brave with me. So the good guys just have to take the heat. Lucas suddenly felt it was a great injustice that the movie Let the Bullets Fly had never been submitted for an Oscar. I'm not only brave with you. You're always the one who starts teasing me. Lily didn't get the reference and began to explain earnestly. I won't ram you anymore. Though she hadn't really been thinking that, it did seem she was taking advantage of his affection for her. I'm joking. I just want you to understand that at home, my feelings for you are what allow you to be willful. It's the same outside. Lucas poked her cheek, guiding her gaze to the people around them. So don't be afraid of any of them. The past is the past. You have me now. He often thought that if he could travel back in time, he would string up and beat every single classmate who used to toss her backpack over her head. No, wait, this was a civilized society. He could find more civilized ways to torture them back. It made his blood boil, and there were plenty of ways to deal with bastards like that. But unfortunately, he didn't have any superpowers. Society would deal with people like that for him. So the past had to stay in the past. All he could do was stay by her side and help her slowly overcome all her fears. Lily blinked, stunned by his words. She didn't speak for a while. Then, she slowly let go of his arm and, like the other couples on the street, intertwined her fingers with his as they walked. Is there anything you want to eat? She asked softly, leaning in as they passed more and more restaurants. Are you treating? The girl's eyes curved into crescents as she patted her chest. I still have a lot of commission money left. I'm super rich right now. You can have whatever you want. Lucas snorted. It's all junk food. We'd be better off buying some groceries and having you cook for me. When the two arrived at the scooter dealership, it was still open. Probably because of the prime location, there were still quite a few customers. Walking in hand, they found rows of electric scooters of all kinds neatly arranged. Lily was stunned, her mouth slightly agape as she looked around, only snapping out of it a moment later to press her lips together shyly. A middle-aged man approached them with a wide grin and started introducing various models. The variety was truly staggering, tall, short, wide, narrow. Some were sleek and minimalist, while others were so large they looked like motorcycles. Lily's eyes immediately fell on a smaller, more compact one. This one is $2.99. I'll give it to you for $2,200, the man said, his eyes sharp. Lily listened quietly as he listed all its features, then turned to meet Lucas's gaze, as if asking for his opinion. What do you think of this one? It's fine. If you like it, that's all that matters, Lucas shrugged. The couple exchanged a look. Lily puffed out her cheeks and turned back to study the scooter intently. A few seconds later, she walked over to Lucas and took his hand before nervously asking the salesman, "Does it come with any freebies?" The man was taken aback. "Yes, I'll throw in a helmet and a pump. They're a matching set." Lucas was taken aback too. He had been wondering why Lily suddenly grabbed his hand, and now he understood. He was a buff she could activate just by holding his hand. "Could you please throw in another helmet?" "There are two of us," Lily said, her grip on Lucas's hand tightening. He could feel her palm starting to sweat. "Yes, sir. Your business is doing so well, and you look so prosperous. I'm sure one or two helmets won't break the bank." The man chuckled. "All right, a pretty girl who knows how to sweet talk. You can have them. Pick out ones you like in a bit." He glanced at the female celebrity on his advertisement poster and suddenly felt the star wasn't so good-looking anymore. This young man was a lucky guy. Lucas stared blankly at Lily. The girl was visibly nervous, her body practically leaning all its weight on him. He gave her hand a gentle squeeze, praising her for a job well done. How was this dork so clueless in daily life, but so sharp when it came to bargaining? There are plenty of others. You can have one of the staff show you around, the man said, waving over an employee to take Lily on a tour. Lucas scanned the prices of the other scooters and didn't follow. He knew that making his girlfriend happy was about more than just buying her the most expensive model. Sir, is that all you're offering? My classmate got a free air fryer when he bought his scooter, he said to the man, his eyes deliberately wide and naive. In Lily's eyes, this man might already be a good person. If so, it only showed she still had a naive understanding of the adult world. After all, the man had only suggested she look at other models because she had picked the cheapest one. The man's mouth twitched. Are you trying to stock your own store? You don't look like you're short on cash. Lucas patted his pockets. I'm just a recent grad. I don't have any spare money. This scooter is to drive my girlfriend around. Before the man could reply, he leaned in closer, looked around at the other customers, and whispered, It's cheaper over at the mall. They just opened, and I think they're selling at $4 one, $8.99. It's just too far, so we came here. If you give us a few more things, we'll help boost your sales. It's a win-win. The man's face fell. So you two are a tag team of professional freeloaders, huh? Good grief. He thought marking it up by 30% was bad enough, but this kid was even more ruthless than he was. You just graduated? Yep, Lucas nodded repeatedly. I just graduated. My girlfriend is still in school. You don't look like a recent grad. You look like you're in business. No way. I'm just an intern, a corporate drone. The man lit a cigarette and took a drag. Fine. I have air fryers too. While Lily was picking out her scooter with the employee, Lucas and the man chatted about everything from the price of pork to international politics, haggling, and shooting the breeze. When two guys get together, there's no shortage of topics. In the end, it was Lily who paid. Seeing the girl pull out her phone with a pained expression, the man paused and looked at Lucas. You're not the one buying it. So why were you giving me a sob story for half an hour? Lucas spread his hands helplessly. She holds the purse strings. Hearing this, the questioning look in the man's eyes faded, replaced by sympathy and a sense of shared suffering. His girlfriend is beautiful, but he's already henpecked at such a young age. The poor kid. He sighed, as if recalling some past memories, then a small smile touched his lips. You're young, and we had a good chat. I'll give you another discount. I'll sell it to you for whatever they're selling it for at the mall. His voice was low, only for Lucas to hear. Thanks, sir. I'll go tell my boss to buy from you when he's getting year-end bonuses for everyone. The man exhaled a ring of smoke, smiling. This kid sure can talk. Lucas, oblivious to the man's pity, saw Lily heading out with the salesperson and said his goodbyes. Outside, Lily was carefully circling her new prize, looking at it from every angle, fascinated. She had chosen a small, green and white scooter with a fresh, clean look. Given how meticulous she was, durability wasn't a concern, so the color didn't matter. Do you like it? I love it, Lily said, hopping on and patting the seat behind her. Get on. I'll take you home. Giving Lucas a ride was another one of her dreams. Hold on, I have to post this. Lucas took out his phone to take a picture, and Lily quickly dodged out of the frame. He grinned and posted the caption that had just popped into his head. After all this hard work starting a business, I finally bought my first luxury car through my own efforts. Fist pump emoji. The picture below was of the little electric scooter. Jason, who must have been on his phone, replied instantly. Mr. Carter, would you do a humble servant the honor of taking him for a spin? I've never seen such a fine vehicle in my life. Robert Carter, that's my boy. Thumbs up emoji. Before anyone else could reply, Lucas closed WhatsApp with a smile. He glanced at the date and remembered it was the 15th of the month. He looked up and asked softly, It's the 15th. Want to go to my parents' place for dinner? He hadn't been home for the New Year's meal, so he felt he should go tonight. Besides, he needed to check on what was going on with Emma. Lily nodded lightly. Should I buy something to bring? I haven't been over since the holidays. Yeah, let's. Unlike before, Lucas didn't refuse this time. Lily was surprised he agreed, but didn't overthink it, her mind immediately turning to what she should buy. When her commission payment came through, she had already set aside a portion for this. Lucas wanted to try writing, but he lost at rock, paper, scissors and had to let Lily go first. Just as he was about to get on the back, he noticed the slight smile on her lips. What are you smiling about? He asked after sitting down. Lily looked at the white glow of the streetlights and the passing cars, a light seeming to dance in her clear eyes. She let out a deep breath. I just feel really good. She smiled again, her sweet dimples appearing faintly. I can slowly work hard on my own to give the person I love a better life too. Dusk fell, and the city lights came on. Lily rode her new scooter along the side of the road, slowly, constantly being overtaken by other riders. She wasn't in a hurry, a soft smile still on her face. Lucas sat behind her, bored, his arms wrapped around her slender waist, quietly watching her back. Her waist-length hair spilled out from the edge of her cream-colored helmet, making her perfect figure even more enchanting. The evening wind would occasionally lift strands of her hair, letting them float like silk behind her. For the first time ever, the girl was humming a song. Though her voice was soft, Lucas recognized the melody as the one he sang to her most often. The tune was cheerful. "You seem to be in a really good mood," Lucas said with a smile. "I am. I feel so happy taking you for a ride like this." So childish, getting this excited over a new scooter. Lucas snorted, then said, "My turn to ride." He wanted to play too. The novelty hadn't worn off yet. Lucas tapped Lily's shoulder, telling her to pull over. He got off and walked in front of her, rubbing his hands together with a look of eager curiosity. "My turn. You'd even steal your own girlfriend's scooter," Lily said pitifully. Lucas averted his gaze and cleared his throat. "Nonsense. I'm just worried about you." He reached out and gently stroked her cheek, finding it cool to the touch. "See? You're sitting in the front, blocking all the wind. You must be freezing." Actually, his hands were cold too, but after he caressed her for a moment, Lily's cheeks slowly warmed up. It was magical. The tip of Lily's nose was slightly red from the cold, but she still smiled at him, her eyes curving into crescents. "This way you're not as cold." A whole arsenal of tricks got stuck in Lucas's throat. He even forgot why he'd wanted a ride in the first place. "You've already blocked the wind for me for a while. Let me take a turn. But you get colder than I do." Lily knew this well. Lucas was the person most sensitive to cold she had ever met, bar none. Otherwise, he wouldn't complain every day once winter set in. "Hurry up. If you make me sit in the back any longer, I can't guarantee my hands will stay on your waist." "You're shameless," Lily yelped, darting to the side and looking at him with puffed cheeks. It was bad enough that he was always talking about climbing mountains at home, but he couldn't even be proper outside. The creep. Lucas tilted his chin at her. "Get on. Look, all the other girls have their boyfriends giving them rides. Don't you want your boyfriend to give you a ride?" "I do." At those words, all of Lily's messy emotions instantly vanished. She obediently sat on the back seat, her face filled with contentment. Lucas turned to look at the smiling Lily and blinked blankly. Lily must have been a goldfish in a past life, the kind with a 7-second memory. "Have you lost weight again?" He couldn't help but ask. If she hadn't suddenly wrapped her arms around his waist, he wouldn't have even noticed she'd gotten on. It was like with his car. Sometimes it didn't even detect that someone was in the passenger seat. "No, I actually gained 5 pounds over the break," Lily said, gently pinching her own cheek. Lucas chuckled and twisted the handlebar. "Really? I can't tell where you gained it. I feel like you're being improper again." "Miss Thompson, our teachers once taught us that we shouldn't judge people with a biased lens." As he finished, Lucas shivered. Riding in the front really was cold. The wind seeped through every seam in his clothes, and since it was night, his ears were aching, feeling like they were about to fall off. On a day this cold, this dork had sat in front of him for so long without a single complaint. He should have switched with her earlier. Just as he was thinking this, Lily suddenly reached up and covered his cold ears with her hands. They were so warm. They arrived just as dinner was about to start. Emily Carter opened the door with a surprised look on her face. She saw the bags Lily was carrying and froze for a second before smiling again. "It's cold out. Come in, come in." Emily welcomed them inside, patting Lucas on the back as he changed his shoes. You couldn't even help Lily carry those. Lily, standing beside them, said in a cute, soft voice, "They're not heavy. Those are all gifts Lily bought for you guys. I didn't buy anything, so why would I carry them?" Lucas said, repeating the line he'd prepared. He shrugged and walked into the living room, where he saw his dad looking at him with a knowing expression. Lucas suddenly felt like all his little schemes were transparent. He glanced at the TV, which was playing an old, popular military drama. His parents really didn't watch new shows anymore, just rewatching the old ones. "What made you decide to come back for dinner?" Robert Carter asked. "Lily and I just got a new car. We came to show it off," Lucas said, leading Lily to the sofa. He picked an orange from the fruit basket, peeled it, and gave her half. Lily glanced shyly at his parents' reactions before carefully accepting it. "Oh, you bought a car?" Emily asked curiously. "What kind? Did this kid buy $1 million car? Why is he so smug?" Robert, who had been quietly watching TV, smirked. "He already showed it off on Facebook. From the brand, I think it's a rad power bike." "A rad," Emily mumbled, about to ask why she'd never heard of the brand before she realized something was off. An electric scooter? Then she saw Lucas smugly dangling the scooter key. Are you nuts? Emily rolled her eyes, half annoyed and half amused, and walked toward the kitchen. I haven't finished cooking. Since you're here, I'll make a couple more dishes. Lily immediately stood up to follow her. The living room fell silent, leaving the two men to wait like useless lumps for dinner to be served. Jess, Robert said, not playing with you. You're a sore loser. After that last game, the more Lucas thought about it, the more he realized his dad had been staring at his phone the whole time. A 40-year-old man, using an app to cheat against his own son. Was that even legal? If you don't find something to do, your mom's going to make you peel garlic, Robert mouthed as a warning. The father and son put their phones on the coffee table and started a proper game of chess. Lucas glanced at Emma's closed bedroom door. Where's Emma? Did school start? School started days ago. Robert sighed, a worried look on his face. Your daughter suddenly loves studying and you're not happy about it. It's because she suddenly loves studying that I'm not happy. It's not right. When have you two ever loved studying? Lucas nodded in deep agreement. She didn't fall for some smart-aleck pretty boy, did she? Impossible. I asked her. And with your sister's personality, I've given up hope of her getting married before she's 30. Robert placed a captured piece on the side of the board. Whatever the reason, it's actually normal. Sometimes a person finds their purpose in life and decides to strive for it in an instant. Lucas was silent for a moment. It was true. He didn't know about others, but for him, the moment he saw Lily secretly working part-time at the campus mail center to buy him a DSLR camera, he decided to dedicate his life to her happiness. That's why he gave up his plan to slack off for the rest of his life and agreed to start a company with Jason. Even after all this time, he still remembered how he felt, remembered the way she wiped the sweat from her brow, and even remembered the refreshing breeze on his face. What are you spacing out for? It's your turn. Robert's voice pulled him back. He shook his head slightly. Nothing. I hear you've been going to Professor Yin's place a lot lately. Lucas froze, looking up at his dad in astonishment. How do you know that? Law and politics, it's a small world. It'd be hard for me not to know. Robert impassively captured one of his son's pieces. You probably won't be able to persuade him. I know. Lucas didn't deny it. He wasn't counting on the old man's help anymore. He just dropped by when he had free time, seeing as the professor was always so alone. Robert nodded slightly. But if you do get the chance, make sure you give William Montgomery a good hard shove. Lucas saw his dad's lips twitch and grew curious. Why do you seem to hate him more than I do? I'm a victim here. Your Uncle William is in his 40s and still single, and that man is half the reason why. Don't tell me he's a homewrecker. Lucas's mouth fell open. How could they keep a secret this juicy from him until he was 22? Hadn't the statute of limitations on gossip expired? Robert narrowed his eyes, as if recalling something buried deep in his memory. Back then, although your Uncle William and his wife weren't on the best of terms, it was far from over. He was on a fast track at work, and the other mister, Montgomery, was investing in real estate here. Then, suddenly, he started pouring money into a bunch of development projects. Your Uncle William got a major promotion, and while his career took off, he was never home. You know the rest. Less than 2 years after the divorce, your aunt married him. I'm sure he never expected your Uncle William to rise as high as he did, but I find it hard to believe he didn't have a hand in orchestrating the whole thing. His dad had said something, and yet he'd said nothing at all. But now Lucas understood where that half the reason came from. With just that bit of information, he could imagine a 40-episode soap opera, the kind that would air on daytime TV. All these years, your Uncle William has treated you like his own son. You can feel that yourself. Lucas nodded. He couldn't deny it. Take any small thing. Ever since he could remember, Uncle William had always given him 2 red envelopes of cash for New Year's. One openly, because it would likely be confiscated by his parents, and another secretly, so he could buy whatever he wanted. As he got older, the amount grew. The tradition had continued to this day. His complicated history with Scarlett had never affected his uncle's attitude toward him. He doted on him just the same, and had even made time to watch his speech. He knew that you'd be hard-pressed to find a better elder in the entire country. So, now that this guy has crossed you, if you get a chance, trip him up. There are a lot of things your Uncle William and I can't do. Besides, I'm an old man. Going after him myself would make me look petty, and your dad is definitely not the type to hold a grudge. Lucas's mouth twitched. Oh, definitely not. He finally knew where he got his own talent for holding grudges. Right? It's all ancient history. Robert nodded with satisfaction. I know you're not the vengeful type either. Just do what you can. Even if his company's funding dries up, he illegally stole your company's data and seems to be involved in bribery and tax evasion. We can't just bury him. He clapped his hands and then opened them, his face dead serious. We Carters are honest people. Lucas nodded sagely. How could he possibly hold a grudge just because the man's company had indirectly targeted his girlfriend at a convention and placed her booth next to the bathrooms? That was a whole 61 days ago. What are you two giggling about over there like a couple of lunatics? Come and eat. Emily's voice called from the kitchen. Robert Carter, if you don't get in here and carry some plates, you're not getting any dinner. Robert flinched and scrambled to his feet, heading for the kitchen. Coming. Lucas watched his dad's undignified retreat and thought about their conversation. Going after him myself would make me look petty, translated to it would look bad if I got involved. We Carters are honest people meant don't do it with your own hands. And just like that, his dad had laid out the entire roadmap. Knowing where the roots were rotten made it much easier to find evidence than trying to shake a towering tree that looked healthy on the surface. Even though the house was warm, Lucas felt a chill. He looked over at his mom, who was pinching his dad's ear, and then at Lily, who was watching them, stunned. Thank God Mom can keep him in line. That was his only thought. Although Emma wasn't home, the evening was still lively. After dinner, Lucas cheerfully led Lily away. Only then did Emily have a chance to look at the various health supplements Lily had brought. She and Robert accepted them without protest. You couldn't refuse gifts from the younger generation, especially from your future daughter-in-law. Why do you think Lily brought so many things over? Emily asked, full of gossip. I did a quick calculation. This stuff must have cost at least $1,000. That girl is so generous. Countless people had brought them similar gifts over the holidays, but only the ones from Lily felt so heartwarming. Robert scoffed. How many years has it been since you insisted on bringing gifts to my parents' house? You've already forgotten. You're saying this is Lily's. Emily's words caught in her throat. Back then, she had no family to speak of. After getting her first month's salary, she bought 2 fish and a basket of eggs and ran straight to Robert's house. She didn't know who she was trying to prove something to. That even without her parents' support, she could be like any other pampered girl, get engaged, and save for a dowry. Lily saw this as her first formal meeting with her mother-in-law. Emily murmured. No wonder she'd never brought anything before, and now she brought something so expensive. Robert continued to watch TV nonchalantly. She's part of the family now. This is her home base. Emily was dazed for a moment, blinking back tears. She sighed at the twists of fate. Unfortunate children were often both insecure and fiercely proud. Lily's pride was every bit as strong as her own had been, stubbornly determined. Just a little dorky. It was after 10 when they got back to the apartment. Lily sat on the sofa, carefully savoring a cream puff that Emily had insisted she take, a look of pure bliss on her face. This is so good, she said softly. I can't believe something this delicious exists in the world. You've never had one before? Nope. Lily reluctantly popped the last piece in her mouth. I love the cream inside. Lucas looked at the last cream puff in his own hand. So it's true that few girls can resist dessert. He slowly brought it to her lips. Say ah. Lily quickly shook her head, full of guilt. No, I can't. I had almost all of them. That's your only one. It's fine. This stuff is too rich for me anyway. As he spoke, he realized some of the cream had gotten onto his index finger. He pointed to the tissue box on the coffee table. Lily, can you grab me a tissue? It would be a waste to wipe it off. Why don't you just lick it? But I really don't like cream, Lucas said truthfully. He'd even thrown up from it before. Some people just weren't built for it. He had to scrape the frosting off birthday cake before he could eat it. How about you do it? Lucas asked. Lily paused, then gave a nearly imperceptible nod. She took his outstretched hand, tucked a stray piece of hair behind her ear with her other hand, and then slowly lowered her head, closing her lips around his finger. Lucas hadn't thought much of it, and Lily certainly hadn't. But the moment he felt her mouth close around his finger, the situation took a sharp turn. Feeling the warm, moist touch on his fingertip, the gentle lapping of her tongue, Lucas swallowed hard. The sound of his own heartbeat was suddenly louder than his breathing. In the course of human events. No, that's not it. 7 years ago. Not that either. In the end, the master tactician couldn't even recall the first line of Hamlet's soliloquy he used to calm himself. His mind was a blank slate, his focus entirely consumed by the sensation on his fingertip. A moment later, I can't believe you don't like something so delicious, Lily mumbled, licking her lips. Seeing the small smudge of white cream at the corner of her mouth, he shook his head hard and quickly stood up. I'm going to take a shower. He had to cool down. One moment of weakness, and it would all be over. Lily looked up at him, puzzled. Then, she noticed something was off about him, and her face flushed beet red. Knowledge truly was a curse. She immediately thought of things that, just a few days ago, she would never have imagined. Are you going to go? Take care of it yourself again. No. And what do you mean again? Lucas retorted. How can you slander me like that? If you're really uncomfortable, I can help you. Lily's voice grew quieter and quieter until she was just hugging her knees, her head buried, not saying a word. Discovering his study materials hadn't really affected her outlook. If anything, it shattered the perfect image she had of him, but not in a bad way. In fact, she was quite happy about it. Lucas was so good at everything that he'd always felt a bit unattainable. Now she knew her boyfriend was just a little smarter than average. In other ways, he was just like any other guy his age. He was always trying to take little liberties with her at night, constantly worried about going too far and scaring her, and even worried about waking her up when he thought she was asleep. She was human too. How could she not have sleepless nights? Sometimes, Lucas was just adorable. Though she was still hugging her knees in embarrassment, the look she gave him was becoming more and more meaningful. Lucas felt his cheeks burn under her gaze. I am a man with a moral bottom line, he declared. Lily was so good to him, so soft, and always looked so easy to bully. If he kept begging her to help him, wouldn't that make him a pervert? He was a gentleman. I, Lucas Carter, have lived my life with integrity, and I will never do anything against your will. Not only can I wait until you agree, I can wait until you pin me down yourself. He was the master of the long game. The prize had to be won through his own charm, not taken through the unwilling tolerance of the frog. He had professional ethics. His face full of righteousness, Lucas puffed out his chest before turning and heading to the bathroom. Silly Lucas, Lily thought. Then she remembered all those days when he had held back from even kissing her, and the corners of her lips, hidden in her arms, curled up. She was so lucky. The night deepened. Lucas stared at the cool night outside, tossing and turning, unable to sleep. He looked at the girl beside him, her chest rising and falling with her steady breaths. Are you asleep? He whispered. Nope. If you can't sleep, I can talk with you. Lucas snuggled closer to her, a fawning look on his face. You know, my moral bottom line is actually pretty flexible. Lily stared at him, clearly taken aback. It took a couple of seconds for Lucas's suggestion to sink in. She pressed a finger against his cheek, stopping him from leaning any closer. Her voice was gentle, but tinged with an exasperated amusement. Oh, and here I thought Mr. Lucas Carter was a man of integrity, with such high moral standards. He had sounded so righteous just a moment ago, making it seem like she was the one offering to help him out. Her eyes were still bright in the dim light of the bedroom. Lucas gazed into them for a moment before looking away. A person's standards are always shifting. It's an inevitable consequence of progress. My bottom line is flexible, but mine isn't, Lily said, her tone suddenly serious. She had always been a person of principles. With others, that was a given, but even with Lucas, she had standards. While compared to everyone else, her standards might have been just a tiny bit less firm when it came to him. Just a little. Was she, the great artist Lillipad, the kind of person to be so easily tempted by Lucas Carter? Ignoring her declaration, Lucas gently nipped the tip of her outstretched finger. Lily, he whispered with a laugh, I love you. The kind of love that makes me want to do anything for you. I love you too. Her breathing quickened, and she turned her face away, embarrassed, looking out the window at the night sky. So, Lucas's hand slipped beneath the hem of her shirt, his fingers tracing patterns over the slim line of her waist. Lily suddenly snapped out of her daze, shaking her head frantically. And not yet. We can't. When then? Just a little longer. Her own words seemed to fill her with guilt, and she looked at him apologetically. A short while later, Lily returned from the bathroom, buttoning up her shirt as she stood by the bed. She shot Lucas a brief, pouty glare before climbing back under the covers and curling up against him like a cat. You're like a little kid, she mumbled. A grown man acting like this. Now you're just insulting my performance. Lucas felt his long game of slowly winning Lily over could be compiled into a manual. He could call it the broken window theory, a case study on Lily Thompson, or maybe my 20-year-old goofball girlfriend. The truth was he'd never intended to go all the way tonight. He just knew that if he suggested something bigger, this goofball would immediately compromise on something smaller. If he, the master of boiling the frog, didn't even know the frog's weaknesses, what kind of master would he be? At that thought, a wicked smile spread across his face. He whispered in her ear, Hey, maybe you should write a book. You should write a book. What book? I've even got the title for you. It's called The Bottom Line. When he saw Lily slowly sit up in the dark, Lucas realized it was too late to run. A few muffled yelps later, he was sprawled out on the bed, one hand on his forehead, feeling the ceiling spin. You know, he said, catching his breath, I could help you out, too. He'd heard that girls had needs, which explained the whole "wanna come inside" meme. I don't need it. Lily shot back, her face bright red. February 13th. Half a month had passed with no news from the courts. Lucas hadn't been idle, though. He was still meeting with Professor Ian, but he'd also started reaching out to other respected professors and alumni in the legal field. On the side, he'd asked Jason to use his connections to dig into Montgomery holdings. After all, with Jason's background, that was his area of expertise. The list of potential crimes Robert Carter had rattled off that night had been terrifying. What was more terrifying was that it all seemed to be true. For a company to have that many skeletons in its closet meant it was already on its last legs. Most employees have no loyalty to their corporation, but if the company did go under, Lucas wouldn't mind opening his arms to the homeless talent from its local branch. That would certainly solve his studio's expansion problems. But that was a problem for another day. Lily was heading back to campus in a couple of days, so she'd spent the last 2 nights at her mom's apartment in Maple Creek Estates. This morning, she'd finally come back. Lucas was sitting at his desk when he saw her WhatsApp message. Almost home. He leaned back, lost in thought. The world was in a constant state of flux. On a cosmic scale, the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies were on a collision course. On a microscopic scale, the atoms and cells that made up his own body were ever-changing. Nothing was static. That included people. Lily had changed so much in the past year. She'd once been a girl who barely knew how to smile, and now she would flash him these sweet, gentle smiles for no reason at all. Even just cuddling on the couch, she would purr with contentment like a kitten. She was even starting to get his jokes. She was still an introvert, but as long as she was holding his hand, she could carry a normal conversation. She could even haggle at a market better than he could. They'd gone from being strangers to living together every day. It made Lucas happy. It meant he was doing a good job as a boyfriend. But this goofball had been acting really strange lately. If her recent ghost-fearing phase was an exact replica of how he'd been after watching his first horror movie, then her behavior the last few days was a perfect reenactment of the first time he'd discovered the internet's darker corners. For example, the study materials still on his computer and the brand new headphones on his desk. Lucas stroked his chin, his hand moving to the mouse. He scanned the screen. There were no recently opened folders in his file explorer. That was weird. Even if Lily hadn't been snooping through his stuff again, she was constantly opening her draft folders for her art. But there was nothing. Wiping your recent file history was a basic move for any guy, but it made no sense for Lily. She wouldn't even know how, unless she had help. Lucas's eyes widened. A crucial piece of information he'd been overlooking suddenly clicked into place, like the last piece of a puzzle, and the entire picture became clear. No wonder Lily, a girl who thought the C drive was the only place to download anything, had managed to find his deeply hidden study materials. Damn it. Aaron Thompson. How could he have forgotten about the company's #1 speed demon, the most internet-savvy person on his entire team? Without a second thought, he picked up his phone and made a call. Leo, is finance in the office today? He asked, his voice cold. The sound of typing on the other end stopped. Let me check. Yep, they're here. Lucas gritted his teeth. Dock all of Aaron Thompson's performance bonuses for the month. What's the reason this time, boss? Tardy and leaving early again. Finance has the list of all her previous offenses I recorded. Tell them to pick a few. And let them know that if Aaron's paycheck is $1 over her base salary, I'm docking theirs instead. He hung up, a deep sense of satisfaction washing over him as a smirk played on his lips. It just goes to show, you never get in trouble with the boss for minor infractions. You get in trouble for picking the wrong side. Just then, he heard the front door click open. What did you bring back with you? Lucas asked, seeing Lily walk in with 2 backpacks. Lily took a few quick, deep breaths. Books. For the new semester. You're suddenly making me feel a sense of guilt, like I'm corrupting an innocent college student, Lucas muttered. In a few months, he'd be a full-fledged graduate, a real adult, and this goofball was still in school. Aren't you? Lily tilted her head, a mock-innocent expression on her face. Lucas was surprised she was teasing him. He grinned and shot back, am I? Oomph. Lily lifted her chin, suppressing a laugh. You are. I haven't even had my 20th birthday, and you've already tricked me into. And not only do you feel no remorse, but you bully me every day. Lucas's lips curled into a smirk. I'm even getting excited. Thinking about it, Lily really was checking a lot of boxes. A not quite 20-year-old college student. A cool, raven-haired goddess on the outside who was secretly a huge dork. The most aloof beauty in the University of Washington's history, who was also the introverted artist Lillipad at home. Oh, right, and she was a tutor too. Too bad she wasn't tutoring him. You're a pervert. Lily, a dozen retorts stuck in her throat, shot him a shy, annoyed glare. She meant to tease him, but she was still one move behind. She stuck her tongue out at him and sat on the couch to organize her books. Looking at the pile of textbooks, her gaze slowly fell. Once school started, she wouldn't be able to stick to his side all day. She never thought she'd see the day she actually hated the thought of going to class. She really had turned into a bad kid. "Mom, I'm so sorry. I wish you could deposit time in a bank," she mumbled, arranging her books. "I'd save up these next 2 years and use them after I graduate." Lucas, who had started a game, looked up. "You should be glad you're not 20 yet. Otherwise, I'd be after more than just your body." "What else would you be after?" Lily scurried back like a frightened deer, hugging her shoulders until she was pressed into the far corner of the couch. "The next few decades of your life." Lucas stood up slowly and sat beside her, helping her stack the books. "If you were old enough, I'd have definitely tricked you into coming home to be my wife by now." "Big liar," Lily muttered under her breath, her head down. "You just bully me all day. I'd never marry you." Lucas glanced at the accounting textbooks on a coffee table and chuckled. "You're already in deep. There are only 227 days left until your 20th birthday." "It's 237 days," Lily corrected him earnestly. Lucas didn't say anything. Seeing his playful smirk, she realized he'd said the wrong number on purpose, just to test if she was counting the days. This time, Lily didn't even have the energy to headbutt him. She just slumped into the couch, melting into the cushions. Feeling her cheeks flush, she turned on her side and buried her face in the upholstery. If he saw her blushing, he'd make fun of her again. Was she really that much dumber than him? Lucas glanced at the ostrich beside him and chuckled softly. "The Trisolarans would weep at your sincerity." Lily's voice was full of grievance. "You bully me every day." My bad. Come here and give me a kiss." "It's been days since I saw you," Lucas said with a grin. Lily didn't move, but she held out her hand, a final act of defiance, it seemed. Lucas planted a soft peck on the back of her hand. "I haven't been sleeping well without you here." It was true. Even though they hadn't been living together for long, he found himself suffering from insomnia every time he felt the empty space beside him in bed. He was always teasing Lily for being clingy, but it turned out he was no better. "Me too, actually." One little kiss was all it took to soothe her. She sat up straight, a small smile on her face. "Did you have a good breakfast?" "I was going to come back early to make you something, but it was so dark this morning, I was scared to ride my scooter." Lucas reached out and pinched her jelly-like cheek. "You can't keep being such a pushover, Lily Thompson. There's no girl in the world this easy to please." "What can I do about it?" Lily said, completely justified as she wrapped her arms around him, her hands resting on his back. "Next time, will you come stay with me at my mom's? I don't want to be apart from you for even a day." Okay. A moment later, as if she'd fully recharged, Lily gently pushed Lucas away and ran to her room to change, completely satisfied. Lucas blinked, dumbfounded. Just a second ago, she was saying how much she missed him, and now, after one hug, she was gone. Did he just get played? Lily emerged from the bedroom in her pajamas and made a beeline for her desk. The moment she sat down, she picked up her stylus. "You use me for a hug and then leave? You're a player, Lily Thompson." Lucas yelled, feeling wronged. "I'm not. I just remembered I have a commission I haven't finished, and I have to turn the line art today," she explained frantically. "I haven't even had a chance to wash the clothes I just changed out of. I can wash them for you." Lily shook her head like a bobblehead. "No. What's the big deal? It's not like I haven't seen them before. That was just the top half." Lily mumbled. "It's only a matter of time. We've been living together for a while now. Isn't it a pain to hide your laundry from me every day?" Lucas said nonchalantly. This time, he was a man of true integrity with nothing to hide. Lily's cheeks puffed out. On second thought, he had a point. She walked slowly into the bedroom and came back out with a pile of clothes, her face beet red. Lucas smirked and gently tapped her forehead. Even though she was letting him do the laundry, she still hid her underwear in the middle of the pile. This goofball's brain worked in strange and adorable ways. The feeling of washing a girl's underwear for the first time was too complex to describe. By the time Lucas came out to hang the laundry, he'd mentally reviewed Hamlet's to be or not to be soliloquy so many times he could recite it backward. After hanging the clothes, he saw Lily sitting at her desk with a troubled expression. He couldn't help but lean over her. "First time I've seen you look this miserable." "No inspiration." Lily rested her chin on her desk, looking completely defeated. "This commission is for a female-oriented game. I have to draw a guy, and I have no experience." EW. Lucas let out a long, disgusted groan. "You mean like those pretty boy characters, the ones named Victor and Lucien?" "Yes." Lily nodded softly. A moment later, her gaze drifted to Lucas, and her eyes suddenly lit up. She pursed her lips and said timidly, Lucas, you wouldn't want your girlfriend to run into trouble at work, would you? Lucas, stop learning those weird lines. What did you learn that ridiculous line? Lucas asked immediately. Lily lowered her head, fiddling with her fingers, her voice small and hurt. From you. Lucas was speechless. Okay, he had definitely used that line on her before. He leaned in, inhaling the unique, faint scent of her hair. He frowned. Something felt off. This wasn't how things were supposed to go. Back before they were together, he'd used that line and his whole purely platonic act to take advantage of her. How had the roles reversed so completely? As he was thinking, Lily rubbed her head against his chin, her long, curled lashes fluttering. Please help me, she cooed. Just this once, okay? How am I supposed to help with this? Lucas found it strange. He couldn't draw it for her. Was he supposed to call the game company and say, hey, we're both in the industry. Do me a favor and give my girlfriend a few extra days on her deadline? Hilarious. His reputation would be shot by tomorrow. Polaris wasn't big enough for that yet, though maybe someday it could be. Just help me find some inspiration, she said earnestly. The feedback on my last commission was amazing. So what do you need me to do this time? Lucas asked. If it was like last time, he was more than willing. An opportunity like that was too good to pass up. I remember you have a white button-down shirt. Lily stood up, muttering to herself as she walked toward the bedroom, her chin in her hand as if deep in thought. Watching her retreating figure, Lucas suddenly realized something was wrong. Last time, it was a fan service mobile game, and he'd gotten an eyeful of her posing. But this was a game for a female audience. Didn't that mean he was going to be the source material? I haven't agreed to anything yet, Lucas called out as Lily emerged from the bedroom, holding the white shirt. The smile on her face slowly faded. She pouted. It's just wearing a shirt. Lucas couldn't stand that expression. He took the shirt and sighed. Just this once. Lily nodded eagerly, grabbing his hand and pulling him toward the bathroom. Where are we going? Lucas asked. The bathroom. What for? To get the shirt a little wet. It'll become more transparent, so you can just make out the skin. Her tone was completely serious, as if she was totally unaware of how explosive her statement was. Lucas stopped in his tracks, pulling her back. You might as well just kill me now. He was not doing that. It was just a little too weird. Lily was just so absorbed in her work that she hadn't processed it yet. Once her brain came back online, she'd be the one dying of embarrassment. She had truly become a professional artist, but he would never, ever be her model. Lucas Carter would rather starve, die on the streets, jump out a window, than agree to something like this. A man of his stature, wearing something like that? Where would his dignity be? The girl felt him resist and turned back. I was tricked into helping you before. What's wrong with you helping me now? Lucas didn't dare ask what she meant by helping. If it was what he thought it was, then he was definitely in the wrong here. Seeing he was still refusing, Lily stood on her toes and brought her lips to his ear, her warm breath tickling him as she spoke. Let's make it fair. I can wear whatever you want to see in the future. Although it often depended on the client, missing a deadline usually meant paying a penalty fee. The thought of losing money before she'd even earned any was worse than death for her. Sure enough, as soon as those words were out, Lucas's attitude did a complete 180. His eyes went wide. Are you serious? Seeing the grin that was practically splitting his face, Lily realized her words had been too vague. She quickly waved her hands and added, nothing too revealing. Lucas glanced upward, a plan already forming in his mind. He'd seen the period gown and the sailor uniform, the black stockings and the white ones. Thinking about it, he realized that Mr. Carter had quite the collection of kinks. What about a slip dress? Okay, sigh. I spent so long picking out that spaghetti-strap nightgown for you last summer, and you refused to wear it, Lucas said with great regret. Lily took a sharp breath. I'll buy it. It's only February. Let's talk about it this summer, okay? Lucas nodded with satisfaction. And that's enough. There's no end. Lily covered his mouth, her face flushed and her breathing getting heavier. She took a moment to compose herself. If she let him keep talking, who knew what kind of deviant requests he'd come up with? She took his arm again, gently shaking it back and forth. Please? I'll actually die if I can't turn this in. Lucas swallowed hard. He really couldn't handle it when Lily begged. His resolve completely melted. Fine. Deal. In the bathroom, Lucas looked down at the damp, white shirt in his hands. Through the thin layer of fabric, he could faintly see the palm of his hand. Even though Lily's terms were impossible to refuse, this was still pretty humiliating. He couldn't help but sigh. He felt like he'd been in this situation before. Back when he first met Lily, He'd tricked her into wearing that roaring 20-style school uniform for a photo shoot. Was this how she had felt? What goes around comes around. Karma's a bitch. A few moments later, Lucas walked out of the bathroom to see Lily staring at him, her eyes shining. Her beautiful irises seemed to hold a universe of stars. Hurry up, it's cold, he urged. The house was warm, and he'd used warm water, but it was still chilly. I know. Lily grew anxious too. She pulled him over to stand in front of her desk, then tapped her chin with her finger as she circled him twice. Just a moment ago, she'd thought the client's request was unreasonable, asking her to make the art more alluring. How was she supposed to make a guy look alluring? During her days at her mom's, she hadn't drawn a single line, but she had been looking at other artists' work, at photos of male models and celebrities. But nothing sparked any feeling. That was why she'd been stuck on a single piece of line art for days. But now she knew. It was actually possible. She was so captivated by the sight of Lucas that she was practically mesmerized. Lily realized her heart only ever raced when she looked at him. She was a total Lucas addict. Lucas was already on the leaner side, and the wet shirt clung to him, accentuating his physique. The friendly, boy-next-door vibe was replaced by a vulnerable, almost easily bullied look, especially where the damp fabric clung to the faint outlines of his abs, a tantalizing hint of muscle. Lily stood in front of him, her clear eyes blinking. Something was still missing. Then, starting from the top, she undid 2 or 3 of his buttons. Seeing Lucas's speechless expression and the half-exposed line of his collarbone, she quickly looked away and swallowed. Don't move, okay. After saying that, she slipped her slender hand through the opening of his shirt, her fingers lightly caressing his waist just as he had done to her that night. You're not using research as an excuse to feel me up, are you? The more Lucas thought about it, the more suspicious it seemed. What kind of research required hands-on work? Lily pressed her cheek against his chest and rubbed it gently. How could I? I'm so naive. Lily hid behind Lucas, her face red as she spoke, her slender, pale fingers still roaming over his stomach. Lucas's mouth twitched in helpless resignation. He decided to just let her do as she pleased. With her pressed so tightly against his back, he didn't feel cold at all. After a long while, Lucas said, a mix of annoyance and amusement in his voice, haven't you had your fill yet? My shirt's almost dry. Now, if you keep this up, the police might arrest you for harassment. I'm not touching anyone else. It's not illegal to touch my own boyfriend. Lily mumbled from behind him. Don't you dare use my lines. Lucas couldn't believe she'd already learned the very excuses he used on her at night. He had a sinking feeling this frog was getting harder and harder to boil. It was like you'd been successfully boiling a frog every day. The frog was happily swimming in the pot, and everything was progressing smoothly. Then one morning, you wake up and catch the frog secretly setting up the pot and lighting the fire, following your exact routine. It was terrifying. Was he about to lose control to a goofy frog? What would happen to his reputation as a master frog boiler? Lucas shook his head vigorously. It had to be his imagination. It must be. He, the great Master Carter, could not possibly lose. I'm sorry, the girl behind him said softly. Are you cold? I shouldn't have been so selfish. How could I be cold when you're hugging me so tight? Lucas said honestly. He thought to himself, if this is what she calls selfish, will you call girls who get moody for no reason and then insist they're not mad? You're such a goofball. That's good. Lily moved to stand in front of him again, gently buttoning his shirt one by one. Then she stood on her toes and planted a light kiss on his lips. Lucas raised an eyebrow and pointed to his neck. Your boyfriend was so cooperative. Doesn't he deserve a little gold star for his effort? Lily tilted her head, looking blank for a second before she understood. She pursed her lips, leaned in, and when she pulled away, a faint hickey had appeared on his neck. This goofball didn't even use much force when leaving a hickey. She just gently bit down and then slowly, lightly sucked for what felt like an eternity. The good thing was it didn't hurt. It was just a mix of ticklishness and pleasure, like an itch being scratched deep inside him. As she tried to pull away, Lucas grabbed her wrist. What are you doing? Lily took 2 involuntary steps back, her voice trembling. Her mom was right. Bad deeds really do come back to haunt you. Leaving a hickey, of course, Lucas said, leaning down. Lily couldn't help but pat his back a couple of times. That's too low, you can't. Lucas wasn't sure if Lily was trying to compensate him, or if this was one of those times when a girl says no but means yes. She was protesting verbally, but her body wasn't resisting. In fact, the tickling sensation made her cling to him even tighter. Having gotten his fill of teasing, Lucas had no more excuses to run. He stood obediently in front of the computer desk, serving as Lily's source material. He was like a puppet on a string, posing however she told him to. See, can you turn your face away? Halfway through, the girl put down her stylus and waved at him. Why? Lucas asked, curious. Lily hid half her face with her drawing tablet, looking away shyly. I can't concentrate when I'm looking at you. Lucas didn't bother pointing out how she managed to say that with such unearned confidence. He just obediently turned his head. Don't draw me, though, was his final request. I won't, Lily replied without looking up, her pen flying across the tablet. I'm just taking some inspiration. I'm not letting anyone else see. She would never draw her boyfriend for other people to see, not even his source material. Lily secretly glanced up at Lucas, who was standing there looking bored. That, she thought, is for my eyes only. When Lily announced she was almost done with the line art, Lucas finally went back to the bedroom to change. He didn't stay idle for long. He pulled his DSLR camera from his bag, aimed the lens at the intensely focused Lily, and started snapping pictures with a smirk. After capturing a shot he was satisfied with, the lighting and angle just right, he put the camera down and stretched lazily. A glance at the clock showed it was already past noon. It felt like they hadn't done much, yet lunchtime had arrived. Lucas suddenly thought it was funny how he was always using his girlfriend as a photography model, and she was always using her boyfriend as art reference. But the thought of being her source material for years to come made him want to die a little. He hoped she'd get more commissions for fan service games in the future. Then he'd be the one enjoying the view. He glanced at the date and asked softly, Valentine's Day is tomorrow. Have you thought about where you want to go? Their relationship was unconventional. Since they'd met, they'd only been to the movies a few times. They hadn't visited most of the typical date spots for couples. So far, it was just one trip to the amusement park and one to the aquarium. That was it. The more Lucas thought about it, the more depressed he got. How had they skipped straight to the domestic, settled-down part of a relationship? Snapping back to reality, Lucas realized Lily hadn't said a word. He turned to look at her and saw she was frozen, as if struck by lightning. Her mouth was slightly agape, and a shimmer of tears welled in her eyes, threatening to fall. Lucas was startled. What's wrong? I have so many commissions to finish. I don't think I can go out tomorrow. Didn't you work on them when you were at your mom's? I couldn't draw when you weren't there, Lily said, fighting back tears. I can't do anything when you're not with me. She hung her head low, her hands fidgeting nervously. In Lucas's eyes, she looked exactly like a small child who had made a mistake and was waiting to be scolded by the teacher. Anxious and afraid. He felt if he raised his voice even a little, she would genuinely flinch. Even now, this goofball seemed terrified of him getting angry with her. Lucas walked over, his expression gentle, and wiped her cheek with his finger. You're so silly. Why would you be sad about that? He'd only asked casually. This goofball probably thought he placed a huge importance on Valentine's Day. Years ago, nobody made such a big deal out of it. It was, frankly, a consumer's trap. A bunch of businesses singing praises to love while fleecing everyone blind. He shouldn't have even brought it up. What was he thinking? We're both homebuddies. It doesn't matter if we go out or not, Lucas said softly. As he finished, he suddenly froze. Tomorrow was also Vanessa's birthday. Jason had been planning her gift for the past 2 weeks. Did Vanessa invite you to her birthday party? He asked. Lily gave an almost imperceptible nod. She texted me this morning. I told her I'd reply later. She fell silent for a moment, rubbing her eyes with the back of her hand and sniffling. I'll cancel all my commissions except this one. I'll go out with you for Valentine's Day tomorrow. Lucas quickly grabbed her hand to stop her, his expression growing puzzled. Why have you suddenly taken on so many commissions lately? What was this goofball in such a hurry for? I want to pay back the money, the girl said, her voice so timid it was almost drowned out by the whirring of the computer fan. There's no need to rush, is there? Lucas scratched his head. You're already doing amazing. For most college students, taking on a $100,000 debt without family support would be like the sky falling. Most jobs available to students paid less than minimum wage. They were practically slave labor. Lily, through her talent and a work ethic that far surpassed her peers, was already moving at an incredible pace. The more he thought about it, the stranger it seemed. His expression grew serious. You still haven't really answered my question. Lily reached out her right hand and clutched the cuff of his sleeve, her eyes red. I'll tell you, but don't be mad at me, okay? I'm scared. Her grip on his sleeve was tight, but her hand was trembling slightly, as if she was afraid he would pull away or afraid he would yell at her. Seeing the moisture welling in her eyes, Lucas realized he was scowling. He quickly shook his head. I'm not mad. I swear. Wait, you don't like it when I swear. But I promise I'm really not. He was just thinking. The idea of getting mad at Lily. Even if he could bring himself to do it, he'd have a line of people, Erin, his own mom, and who knows who else, waiting to kill him. He wasn't sure if Lily believed him. She just slowly lowered her gaze. "I want to pay it all back before October." "Before your birthday?" Lucas guessed that Lily didn't want him to inherit her debt. Lily rubbed her eyes and turned her face away, too embarrassed to continue. It all clicked for Lucas. He pulled her into his arms and whispered in her ear, "There's this thing called premarital personal debt." Lily balled her fists and lightly tapped his chest a couple of times, too flustered to let him go on. "That's not the only reason," she murmured a moment later, her voice as faint as a mosquito's buzz. Lucas gently tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear. "Then don't get so fixated on it. Just take your time." "I can't take my time. Time has never waited for me." "Lucas, if I had become useful sooner, Mom's recovery would have been more complete. She wouldn't be like this now, where her leg hurts after standing for just a little while, where she has to stop after just a few steps. While I went back these past few days, Mom kept gritting her teeth and pretending everything was fine, thinking that would let me live my life peacefully. But I know everything." Lily's voice was soft and choked with tears, yet held a stubborn strength. "I've always known. I couldn't get her treatment sooner, and I haven't taken good care of her all these years. I know you were right before, that all of that is in the past, and I've been trying my best to slowly let it go." Lucas asked, his expression puzzled. "If you're trying to let it go, why are you working so hard?" Lily paused for a moment, then lifted her delicate face to look at him. She summoned her courage and reached out from his embrace to gently cup his cheek. Her touch was tender, her eyes filled with boundless affection. To Lucas, her eyes were so beautiful that the redness from her crying now looked like a touch of deep makeup, making them even more captivating. Her words and her tears flowed into his heart at the same time. But I was already useless enough back then. If I don't become useful in the future, how could I ever be of any help to you?" After finishing the longest speech he had ever heard her give, she bowed her head deeply, her slender frame trembling with quiet sobs. Lucas was silent for a long time, just holding her a little tighter. There were a million things he wanted to say, but every time he tried, the words caught in his throat. In the end, he said nothing. It was the first time he had felt so powerless. He hadn't been the one to endure those years of hardship, so he had unconsciously taken it for granted, thinking that a beautiful present could heal everything. He rested his chin on the top of her head. He wanted to sigh, but he swallowed it down, his gaze meeting Dottie's, who was peeking in from the balcony. To think he could erase more than a decade of shadows and scars with just 1 year of happiness. It was, after all, a foolish fantasy. While Lily was in the kitchen making lunch, Lucas found an excuse to go downstairs. He asked his dad for the phone number of the surgeon who had operated on Sophia and made the call. Perhaps because Robert had given the doctor a heads up, the call went through immediately. "Hey, Doc, have you had lunch? Are you busy?" Lucas said cheerfully, pushing his own feelings aside. The man's voice was brisk. "It's a good time. What can I do for you, Lucas?" Lucas realized his dad had indeed paved the way, so he got straight to the point. "It's nothing urgent. I just wanted to ask, it's been so long since Sophia Thompson's surgery. Why does her leg still hurt after just a little bit of walking?" "Some long-term effects are unavoidable. Actually, you can't even call them long-term effects. After over a decade of not walking, the legs are bound to lose some function. Would have been better if the surgery had been done a few months earlier." A wave of fear washed over Lucas. If he had delayed finding a solution and missed the optimal treatment window, it would have haunted him for the rest of his life. He'd spend sleepless nights tossing and turning, his mind consumed with how he should have done better. In that instant, he finally understood how Lily had felt all this time. "No," the voice on the other end was firm. "For a situation like this, you would have needed to act years earlier. We discussed this at the time. The best outcome would have been surgery right at the beginning. There would have been no issues at all. But given the patient's special circumstances, it couldn't be helped, right?" Lucas let out a long breath, his expression growing more dejected. "Yeah, so there's nothing that can be done. Besides, the patient has already made a great recovery. So what if she has to rest after walking a bit? She'll definitely be able to live independently in the future. Your Uncle Doc, will personally guarantee it." Okay. Well, I'll let you get back to it. I've got some things to handle at my company. Thanks for your time," Lucas said, forcing a dry laugh. "Come over for dinner sometime. My dad has a few bottles of Pappy Van Winkle stashed away. I'll pull them all out for you. Sounds good." Lucas hung up and pulled his jacket tighter around him. The view was still bleak. The trees were bare, lifeless. The February wind was bone-chillingly cold. Spring was still a ways off. February 14th. Valentine's Day. The weather was nice, but they had decided not to go out. Lucas planned to take Lily over to Vanessa's party in the evening to make a brief appearance. They didn't really need to go out to celebrate a holiday like this. After all, their first real date had been spent cuddling in a hallway at the startup hub for an entire day. Since they got together, every day felt more festive than any holiday. Early in the morning, Lucas was sprawled on the couch, messaging Jason on WhatsApp about the evening's plans. "Lucas, what's the plan for tonight?" "Jason, you guys come for the second half." Lucas froze, tapping the screen in confusion. "What kind of family are you?" "A birthday party with a first and second half." "Jason, it's a birthday party, but it's really just an excuse for us to treat some of our graduated seniors from the law program. Vanessa is the only one in our group who actually went on to become a practicing lawyer, so she knows more people in the field and has more pull." "Lucas, and Vanessa's not mad you're using her birthday for networking?" "Jason, we plan it together." Winking face. "Besides, it's perfect. Your girlfriend is an introvert, right? This kind of dinner isn't for you two anyway. Just bring her over for the second half to say hi. You know Vanessa's personality. Here in Seattle, she doesn't really have any friends." Finally, Jason sent another message. "So, thanks for having Lily come." Lucas replied with an okay, and put his phone down, stretching lazily. While Vanessa could talk to anyone, she was the type who couldn't stand any nonsense and judge people's character harshly, which naturally meant she didn't have many friends. And thinking about Jason's past behavior, it was strange that those two ended up together. Well, maybe not that strange. Aside from his phase as a player, which was a dark spot on his record, Jason was a good guy. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been friends for so long. Seeing Dottie trot in from the balcony looking for food, Lucas walked over and pressed the button on the automatic feeder, watching her gobble down the kibble. It had been almost 2 months since he brought her home. No longer living hand-to-mouth, Dottie had put on some weight, looking a full size bigger than when she first arrived. Back then, she was just skin and bones. Now she was round and fluffy, making you want to scoop her up and cuddle her. Her territory was still mostly confined to the balcony, though she'd recently expanded to include the living room. She still tiptoed around everywhere, never breaking a single thing. Lucas suspected she was a reincarnated genius. He wondered when the silly cat would expand her territory again. "Want to get revenge on the cats that bullied you? Once you get a little fatter, I can take you outside," Lucas whispered seriously in Dottie's ear. "A gentleman's revenge is a dish best served cold." Dottie looked at him as if he were an idiot. Meow. Leaving Dottie to her meal, Lucas walked over to Lily, who was hunched over her tablet, drawing. He immediately frowned. The drawing on the screen was taking shape. The lines were clean and sharp. The boy in the picture was leaning against a wall, his wet white shirt only half-buttoned, revealing a large swath of skin. His pants were slung low on his hips, hinting at his V-lines, and he seemed to be reaching out to wall-slam the female protagonist. It was definitely a game for a female audience. Lucas could swear he had not been that exposed yesterday. This was so weird. "Hey, do you have a drawing you can show on stream right now? One that won't get you banned." "This would get approved," Lily retorted, her face red. Lucas's words made it sound like she was drawing something indecent. He was the indecent one. She was the innocent victim who was slowly being corrupted by him. Approved or not, she couldn't stream a confidential commission for a game company. Seeing that Lucas was serious about streaming with her, Lily found a private commission she was working on and sat up straight at her desk. "We're not turning on the camera. You don't have to be so formal," Lucas reminded her gently. The goofball was sitting with her back straighter than a first grader on the first day of school. "Oh, try to talk a little today. You haven't gotten any points on the official girlfriend performance review in a long time." Lily took a deep breath. "I'll try." Getting a positive response, Lucas nodded and opened the streaming software on the desktop. Thanks to the little waking up together incident that went viral, combined with her prolific output as an artist, this goofball now had over 90,000 followers. As soon as they went live, people started flooding into the stream. Sure enough, some people still remembered the last streaming accident. A few comments popped up immediately. "Can I wake up with you again tomorrow morning? I've been thinking about it for over a month. Did you forget to end the stream, or were you intentionally flexing on us? What are you guys talking about?" "I have no idea what you mean," Lucas said, playing dumb. He glanced over at Lily, who had her head bowed over her work, and saw her shrink even further into herself. Clearly, this goofball remembered it just as well as he did, but couldn't face it. Then another wave of comments rolled in. "Do you two know how long you've been gone? I subbed during your first stream. I never thought my sub would expire before you streamed again." "Thanks for the renewed sub, my friend," Lucas said, surprised by the loyalty of her fanbase. He blinked and continued. "Well, it was the holidays, you know. We're back now that the holidays are over." "Your holidays last a month?" I don't get it, I don't get it. I'm uneducated. If you keep talking like that, I won't be able to read a single word. The chat had never seen such a shameless streamer. No matter what they spammed, he just kept playing dumb. After a while, they gave up. Soon, the stream returned to the familiar dynamic of the first one. Lily focused on her drawing, and Lucas chatting away beside her. Lily opened and closed her mouth a few times, but still couldn't manage to say a single word. She sighed silently and refocused on her art. She really was so useless. At that exact moment, Lucas gently poked her shoulder. He held up a photo of the two of them on the carousel at the amusement park and whispered, "Hey, what do you call a kiss?" Lily tilted her head in confusion. "A smooch?" she whispered back. "A smooch. A smooch." "No, yeah," she corrected, like she was teaching a small child. "Lucas is so dumb," she thought to herself, "and he has the nerve to call me silly. I'm definitely the smart." She trailed off, suddenly freezing. She heard Lucas make a loud moi sound, and, ignoring the triumphant grin on his face, she whipped her head toward the screen. The chat had exploded. "Am I just a pawn in your games? Crying face, I'm going to have to ask the streamer to respect us. Thank you. Who the hell keeps saying the birth rate is low? Get out here and look at this." Seeing Lily glaring at him with her cheeks puffed out, Lucas jumped back, chair and all. He swallowed hard, his whole body trembling. Can you wait until I mute the stream?" Seeing the girl nod gently, Lucas frantically grabbed the mouse and muted the microphone. His lifelong reputation was on the line. He couldn't afford to be kissed. Once he was certain it was safe, he screwed his eyes shut, stood up straight, and spread his arms wide. "Do it! Hit me," he yelled. A moment later, he felt a soft impact against his chest that made him flinch. But this time it felt strange. It wasn't the kind of blow that made him feel like he was about to cough up blood. This goofball's head was usually as hard as iron. Why was it so soft today? Lucas cautiously opened his eyes to see Lily nestled against his chest. When she saw his eyes were open, she smiled and hugged him tighter. "Why do you hesitate to strike?" Lucas asked. Was this goofball planning to attack his conscience directly? Lily stood on her toes and kissed him. "Because I'm not as silly as you think. I know you were just trying to get me to talk more." Lucas froze for a second, then a smile spread across his face. He gestured for the girl in his arms to look at the screen. "See? Most of these people are your fans. They're being really friendly. We could start by just talking on a stream." The chat was now a joyous, harmonious mess. He wasn't sure if it was because he'd finally gotten his comeuppance or because they'd finally heard Lily speak, but everyone was ecstatic. A month-long hiatus after her debut, combined with his rambling, stream of consciousness hosting style, meant that only the most easygoing people had stuck around. The ones who stayed were either super chill or genuinely loved watching Lily draw. This was the best streaming environment he could possibly create for her. If she could take her first step out of this new comfort zone, maybe she wouldn't be so afraid of strangers in the future. "See," he said softly, "a lot of things, once you actually do them, you look back and realize they weren't such a big deal, right?" Lily didn't speak, but after a long moment, she hummed a soft hum. They seized the opportunity to cuddle for a moment before obediently returning to their seats in front of the computer. "Haven't you disciplined him yet? Don't go soft. Make him kneel on Legos or a bed of nails." "That would be tiring. I wouldn't want to," Lily said bravely, wiping a bit of drool for the corner of her mouth. She held Lucas's hand tightly, as if he were a power-up. Unfortunately, her voice was too quiet to be picked up by the microphone. The screen full of "beat him up" made Lucas's mouth twitch. He'd been talking this whole time, and not a single person was on his side. Since it was Lily's account, the stream was naturally full of her fans. The moment she spoke, the entire conversation shifted to her. Word on the street is that Lillipad drew a new character for that one Ship Girl game. "Can you give us a hint when it's coming out? I'm ready to wail for it." "It should be soon," Lily said, still very quietly. Lucas couldn't help but snort. "You'd better build up your strength while you wait. You have no idea how much content those mobile game companies hoard. If it comes out within 2 months, you'll be lucky." "How do you know so much? Hey, does his voice sound familiar to anyone else? I've been thinking that since the beginning. Has no one seen that video of the Polaris Interactive founder condemning Montgomery Holdings?" Lucas finally saw his chance to show off. Elated, he quickly said, "That's right. That's me." The chat went silent for a moment. Lucas expected a flood of praise and pog emotes. He did not expect to be attacked. "Can you please increase the drop rates in your games? I just dropped $100 and got nothing. Can you make my waifu skin sexier? Why do you have to add leggings?" Lucas cleared his throat. "I'm not in charge of that stuff. The game designer is Jason Miller, not me. I'll send you his username later. You could take it up with him." I'm just Lilypad's boyfriend. Honestly, I'm more jealous of the title Lilypad's boyfriend than founder of Polaris Interactive. +1. Perhaps because the chat was busy attacking Lucas, or maybe because she realized talking on stream wasn't as scary as she'd imagined. Lily started talking a lot more. The donations were clearly more frequent than last time, but as an artist, her earnings couldn't compare to those of game streamers. Her income wasn't proportional to her follower count. Still, Lily was very happy. 2.5 boisterous hours later, the birthday gift Lily was drawing for Vanessa was nearly finished. She rubbed her neck and let out a sigh of relief, then gently tapped Lucas's shoulder, proudly pointing at her completed work. Lucas was about to end the stream when he saw someone who had never commented before drop a massive donation, the kind that cost $300. Go with the flow, 77. Draw for another half hour. I love watching. Lucas stared at the username of his new top donor, blinking blankly. That kind of screen name had to belong to someone my mom's age, he thought. He snorted to himself, muted the mic, and leaned over to whisper in Lily's ear, "You'll probably get about $150 from that gift." $150? Lily, who had been clueless about the donation, saw her eyes go wide. She stared at him, her mouth agape in disbelief. "But she wants you to draw for another half hour. She's so nice. She could have asked me to draw all day." Lily was suddenly filled with energy. "Lucas, hey, come look at this," Emily Carter said, waving over her friends who were in the middle of a game of mahjong. The 3 middle-aged women leaned in, curiously peering at her phone. "This is my future daughter-in-law, streaming her drawing," Emily announced proudly. "That little character is drawn so well. Kids these days seem to like this sort of thing." The women murmured, praising the art. They were used to hearing Emily brag about how beautiful her daughter-in-law was, but they hadn't realized she was so multi-talented. Suddenly, one of them tapped her on the shoulder. "Is a boy talking your son? He's so funny. It's like a comedy routine." Emily grew more and more pleased, a smug smile creeping on her face. Just then, Lucas's voice came from the phone. "A childhood without blowing up cow patties is an incomplete childhood. Forget cow patties. When I was a kid, you could give me a straight stick and I'd play with it for half a day. If I'd had that stick back then, I would have been the king of the playground. I never dare bring it home, though, or it would have become my mom's weapon of choice for beating me. My mom probably still doesn't know that the reason her feather duster was always going missing was because my dad and I would hide it every chance we got." "You must be mistaken," Emily said with a sudden, bright smile. "I don't have a son." Because Jason had set the second half of the party at a karaoke bar, Lucas and Lily had a light dinner before heading over. They stood in front of the Starlight Lounge. A massive neon sign flickered through a rainbow of colors against the night sky, giving the place a unique atmosphere. "This doesn't feel like a place good kids would come to," Lily whispered, eyeing the staff at the door and pressing close to Lucas's shoulder. "It doesn't really, but most karaoke bars are pretty decent. We're just here to see what it's like." "This place is expensive," Lucas explained, feeling a little guilty himself. He wasn't a fan of places like this either, and usually avoided these kinds of social events. He glanced at the timid girl beside him and felt something was off. This goofball never wore makeup and had a naturally pure and gentle demeanor. Standing here now, looking so hesitant to go inside, it made him look like a bad influence. He could tell from the judgmental stares of few passers-by. One guy who was about to enter even gave him a look that was a mixture of pity and envy. Great, Lucas thought. He simultaneously condemns my corruption of an innocent maiden and hates that he's not the one doing it. Lucas decided to lean into the villain role. He deliberately wrapped an arm around Lily's slender waist, pulling her closer. Lily was startled, but didn't resist. In fact, she subtly leaned into his embrace. After the guy walked away with a sour look on his face, Lucas whispered, "Let's get inside. Otherwise, it really will look like I'm preying on an innocent girl." Oh. They were led to Jason's private room. The moment the door opened, they were hit by the strong smell of alcohol, followed immediately by Jason's nearly demonic wailing. "I know that I was wrong now. I'm fooled to let you go, but now I know it's only you, and baby, please don't go." Lucas, even more stunned than the inexperienced Lily, froze in the doorway. Singing that? At his girlfriend's birthday party? What on earth was going through that guy's head? But Vanessa seemed to be enjoying it, holding up her phone to record him. The room was crowded, but aside from Jason and Vanessa, the rest were all girls from the company who were friendly with Vanessa. There wasn't a single stranger. It meant Lily knew everyone. A group of girls was huddled together, chatting about something. In the distance, Aaron was sitting with a giant platter of fruit, munching away contentedly. It seemed like every karaoke party had one of those people. They don't sing a single song, barely drink, and just devour all the fruit. Vanessa, who had been sitting and recording with a smile, saw Lily and quietly reached over to dim the room's harsh lights to something much softer. Jason, who had been in the middle of his song, stopped singing and waved at a waiter to bring in the cake. Lucas led Lily by the hand to a seat on the side, watching as she took everything in. "What do you think?" he whispered in her ear. "I'm a little nervous." "It's a bit loud," Lily said, cupping her hand around her mouth and leaning close to his ear so he could hear. The room was a kaleidoscope of colored lights, casting a strange hue on Lucas's face. Though the blinding lights were gone, the noise from the speakers was still making her eardrums throb. She felt like she could never get used to a place like this. "It's okay. You can eat some fruit. We're not paying for it." "Anyway," Lucas said, giving Chloe, who was sitting next to Aaron, a look. She understood and brought over a plate from Aaron's fruit hoard. "Here, I'll feed you." Lily glanced around, and seeing that no one was watching, she quickly ate the piece of cantaloupe Lucas held to her lips. "You feed me a piece," Lucas said. "Okay," they whispered to each other for a while, until someone shouted from across the room. "Seriously, what are these two doing?" "They've been doing nothing but PDA since they walked in." Lucas turned to see Aaron, having just swallowed a mouthful of fruit, glaring at him. He wasn't sure if she was mad because he was monopolizing her best friend's time, or because he had Dr. Pay, but she seemed very resentful. Aaron waved at Vanessa, who was in the middle of a conversation. "Vanessa, it's your birthday. Aren't you going to make them sing you a song? Look how shameless Lucas is, hitting on a girl at your birthday party." Vanessa looked hesitant at first, knowing Lily's personality, but after Aaron gave her a pointed look, she nodded. "He is being shameless. Lucas, it's my birthday. Are you two going to sing or not?" "I'm not very good," Lucas said, then turned to Lily. "Can you sing?" Lily looked down, her hands clutching the hem of her shirt. "I'm not very good either." Ever since she started drawing, she had been listening to more and more music. Most artists did while they worked. But singing, she'd rather die. The great six-sided warrior Lucas Carter can't sing? I don't believe it for a second. "Give it a try, boss lady. Your voice is so nice. You must be a great singer." A few of the other girls chimed in. Aaron went a step further and shoved a microphone into Lily's hand. Unable to withstand Aaron's blitz attack and the chorus of encouragement, Lucas stood up and took the microphone from Jason, then turned to the girl on the couch. "It's Valentine's Day. If you don't want to sing, you can just listen to me sing to you," he said with a smile, holding out his hand. Lily pursed her lips and placed her hand in his. Their fingers intertwined, and he gently pulled her up from the couch, leading her to the center of the room. "What are you singing?" Jason asked, looking at the tablet in his hand. "Let's do Lucky. It's an easy one," Lucas replied without thinking. Aside from songs by The National, he hadn't sung anything else in ages. He was actually a little nervous. As the music began, the room fell silent. He turned, and his world narrowed until only Lily, with her head bowed, was in his vision. He gently poked her forehead, making her look up before he began to sing. "Now I can see you, be you with me." As soon as he started, murmurs of appreciation and hushed cheers came from the audience. Lucas just kept his eyes on Lily. Seeing she had no intention of joining in, he sang on his own. "Next to me, the memories I'm feeling will last for all time." Lily didn't know why the lyrics were affecting her so much. Her eyes started to well up, and then, as if possessed, she lifted the microphone. "I'm lucky I'm in love with my best friend. Lucky to have been where I have been." Hearing her soft, ethereal voice, Lucas froze. Lily's voice was quiet, even with a microphone, but the emotion she poured into the lyrics seemed to flow through her beautiful singing and seep directly into his heart. Everything she wanted to say was in that song. While Lucas was still in a daze, the girl before him gathered her courage and took his hand, her gaze gentle. She smiled and parted her lips to sing again. "Lucky we're in love in every way." Lily, "Lucky to have stayed where we have stayed." Lucas, "Lucky we're in love every day." Lily, "Lucky we're in love every way." Lucas, "And so I'm sailing through the sea to an island where we'll meet together." At first, Lily had been staring into Lucas's eyes just to keep herself from getting nervous, but now she found herself completely mesmerized. Her gaze never left his, and eventually, she forgot there was anyone else in the room. It was as if she was singing just for him. Lucas suddenly read a sentence in her clear, beautiful eyes. "You think you're the only one who wanted to sing a love song on Valentine's Day." As the song continued, their sweet harmonies filled the room. As Lily grew more comfortable, Lucas's accompaniment became more seamless. At some point, their free hands had unconsciously intertwined, fingers locked together as they sang, smiling into each other's eyes. Their gazes seemed to hold 1,000 unspoken words. But just like the song they were singing, it seemed they only intended to share them with each other. When the song ended, the room was still silent. Then a single, loud sniffle broke the quiet, and the dam of silence burst like an avalanche. "Boss lady, you sing so beautifully. I'm shipping them so hard, I might actually die." "I knew it. You two are too odd. And you said you couldn't sing." Aaron shouted. "Is this some kind of humble brag?" Vanessa was smiling, and Jason gave a supportive whistle. Hearing the cheers, Lily suddenly remembered there were other people in the room. Her face flushed with embarrassment. What was I doing with so many people watching? She quickly tried to pull her hand away, but Lucas wouldn't let go. She had no choice but to let their fingers remain intertwined. Truthfully, she didn't really want to let go. Now that she'd found the excuse of, "I've already embarrassed myself completely," she held on to her. The other girls in the room, aside from Vanessa, were all single. So when they saw the two of them still gazing lovingly at each other after the song was over, someone couldn't help but shout, "Hey, who was it that suggested this? Show yourself." Hearing this, Erin scratched her cheek and tried to shrink further into her corner. "Jason, I know you're not going to take that line down. Aren't you and Vanessa going to sing one?" Chloe dared him. The environment had a way of doing that. Under the influence of the karaoke bar's atmosphere and the dazzling lights, the mood quickly became festive. "Hell yeah, I am. It's my girlfriend's birthday. I'm not letting him have all the glory." Jason stood up and took the microphone, tipping his chin at Vanessa. "Let's sing a hard one." Vanessa looked at him with a teasing glint in her eyes. She thought for a moment and said seriously, "How about Islands in the Stream? Are you having fun?" Lucas whispered in Lily's ear, then impulsively nibbled on her slightly warm earlobe. Lily shivered and gave him a look that was both reproving and tender, then gave a barely perceptible nod. Her cheeks were still burning. "Your performance on the stream and just now has met the standard for extra points," he whispered. "Really?" Lucas nodded. "You only need 2 more points to pass. Keep it up. It's so hard." With Lucas whispering so close to her ear, the warmth of his breath made her feel weak all over, and she melted into his embrace like a puddle. "Once you collect all the Dragon Balls, what reward do you want most?" "You already know what I want most," Lily mumbled. They had gone back and forth on this question so many times. Lucas just loved to ask again and again, but she was never going to say it directly. It was too embarrassing. Lucas reached out and rubbed her soft stomach. "How would I know? I'm not a mind reader." Lily snuggled deeper into his arms like a cat and let out a soft whimper. "You're bullying me." A little while later, after Vanessa and Jason finished their song and started cutting the cake, Aaron called Lily over to chat with them. Lucas sat by himself quietly. Suddenly, Jason sat down next to him and sighed. "What's up?" Lucas asked, giving him a disdainful look. "Dude, I'm kind of getting cold feet about marriage." You went from looking forward to marriage to worrying about it to having cold feet. Isn't that a bit of a drastic change? Jason pulled out a lighter, but then remembered the girls were around. He moved to the far corner of the room to light his cigarette, the tip glowing red in the dim light. The air in a karaoke room was never particularly fresh. He exhaled a long plume of smoke. Maybe I just didn't think about it enough before. Getting married isn't a small thing. Lucas instinctively glanced over at the corner of the sofa where Lily was chatting, her fingers fidgeting as she spoke in a low voice. Seeing her with her head bowed, speaking so softly, he couldn't help but smile. "It seems pretty great. Are you sure you're not just afraid of settling down? You're not old enough yet, so you're not at that point. You don't have as many worries," Jason said seriously. "The responsibility it represents isn't that simple. A wife, kids, both sets of parents. That's 3 families combined. It's too heavy. I don't think I have the ability to handle that right now." Lucas finally understood. "So that's what you're worried about." Jason nodded, glancing over at Vanessa before quickly looking away. "In other words, maybe I'm just not ready. I'll wait another 2 years. I'll be 25 then. That's not too late." He didn't seem to be looking for advice, just venting his frustrations. After he finished, he stood up and walked to the center of the room. "All right, let's have a drink." "How can you drink so much?" Aaron looked at her half-finished beer, then at the empty bottle in front of Vanessa, her face a mask of disbelief. "Networking. You get used to it," Vanessa said with a helpless shrug. "You guys are just lightweights. And this is after I already had drinks with Jason at a work thing. I feel like you can drink more than him." "I can. That's why I'm usually the one taking drinks for him." Lily listened to their conversation, her bright eyes blinking thoughtfully. Since Lucas didn't act like a boss and was one of the few guys there, he naturally became the target for drinks. After downing a glass of beer, he saw Lily slowly walk over. "It smells so strong." Lily leaned in and sniffed him, her brow furrowing. "It smelled bad. She would have to make him shower before he got into bed tonight. It doesn't taste that great either." "Can I have a glass?" she asked quietly. Lucas froze. "Are you sure? Girls shouldn't drink when they're out." "How come they can drink? Someone will be driving them home later," Lucas said, poking her cheek. "And you're a good girl. You can't drink. We're both bad kids, remember?" Lucas couldn't for the life of him figure out why this goofball wanted to drink. Seeing her insistence, he figured it wouldn't be a bad thing for her to know her limit. He poured her a glass. "Just think of it as testing your tolerance," he said seriously. "But we have a deal. You can't drink a single drop when I'm not around. Actually, not even when I am around. We're just not drinking this stuff." He wasn't sure if it was because her skin was thin or if she was just sensitive to alcohol, but this goofball, who often blushed for no reason, also turned red after just a few sips. By the time Lily was on her fourth glass, Lucas realized something was wrong. This goofball's alcohol tolerance was practically non-existent. A moment later, Lily suddenly leaned in and cupped his face, her eyes hazy. "Stop," she said, looking at him. "You keep shaking me dizzy." "Behave," the girl said, her cheeks puffed out, as if scolding a child. Lucas blinked in confusion. "I haven't moved an inch." As Jason and a designated driver took all the girls home one by one, the party finally came to an end. Inside a beautifully decorated living room, Vanessa said, "I feel like I need to work out more, maybe do some yoga or something. It's bad enough I'm not as pretty as Lily, but her figure is better than mine too." She pulled down the hem of her sweater and turned left and right in front of a full-length mirror, looking dejected. She reached out and touched her waist. It only made her feel worse. She had always been confident in her body, until she saw Lily at the karaoke bar, having taken off her jacket to reveal a black turtleneck sweater. Those legs, that waist, and ugh, comparisons are the thief of joy. Jason, who was sitting on the couch engrossed in something, snorted. "Relax. You're beautiful enough. Don't get caught up in it. Instead of trying to improve yourself, just belittle others. Why don't you compare yourself to people who aren't as good-looking as you?" He knew for a fact that if he showed even a hint of agreement or dismissiveness, his girlfriend would grab him like a piglet and toss him out the window. Women were terrifying creatures. That's a weird way of putting it, but fine, you pass. Barely. A smirk suddenly appeared on Vanessa's face. She might be petite, but she was much bustier than Aaron. "I can help with that, Jason said, knowing exactly what she was thinking. "If you don't want her hands anymore, just say so." Seeing Jason fiddling with a blue bubblegum wrapper, she asked with a look of disgust, "What are you doing?" "I want to see if you can really not tell if you poke a few holes in this thing," Jason said, poking a few holes in an unopened condom wrapper with a pin. He grinned wickedly. "Haven't you heard those stories? Years ago, some jerks would poke holes in the Durex in hotel rooms and then repackage them. I want to see if you really can't tell." "You're insane," Vanessa said, rolling her eyes. She turned off the living room light. "The thought of you having used those with other girls makes me sick. We're breaking up." Seeing the bedroom door about to close, Jason quickly grabbed a handful of condoms in the dark and followed her. "Vanessa, if you don't want me to touch you, can you come up with a different excuse? Aren't you tired of pretending to be mad every time?" On a deserted street downtown, Ryan Brooks adjusted his glasses and forced a stiff smile at the short-haired girl in front of him. "So, Bianca, why did you suddenly want to go see a movie?" he asked tentatively. The girl silently put the movie ticket back in her purse without looking up. "You called me crazy the other day. Don't you think you owe me an apology?" "I thought you were going to ask for Lucas's contact information," Ryan said with a bitter smile. Both Lucas and Jason had told him that Bianca was probably just using him to get to Lucas. He hadn't believed them at the time, but now, the more he thought about it, the more ridiculous it seemed. Maybe because I'm just a normal person. The girl clasped her hands behind her back and walked a few steps along the curb like it was a balance beam. Seeing a taxi pull up in front of her, she turned and gave him a small wave. "I have to go. My mom doesn't like me staying out too late." "Okay, bye." Ryan stood on the sidewalk, watching the taxi's taillights recede into the distance, until they became just another pair of stars in the vast city night. In a dimly lit, slightly worn-down apartment hallway, Lucas was supporting Lily with one hand while fumbling for his keys with the other. The long-haired girl looked at him with hazy eyes, her love for him overflowing and unconcealed. "Hey, I'm trying to open the door." "Behave," Lucas said with a wry smile, clicking his tongue. "Can you be good for a minute?" Ever since they got out of the taxi, Lily had been a limp noodle draped all over him, clinging to his arm without letting go. Normally, she was an ostrich. Drunk, she was a sloth. New, the girl whined, then wrapped her arms around him even tighter. Hugs. I have to find my keys. You want us to sleep on the street? Then we can bring Dottie with us. She'll be lonely by herself. You realize there's a possibility that I have to find the keys first before I can get Dottie out, right? And besides, once we're inside, why would we sleep on the street? Lucas looked at her, torn between amusement and exasperation. You're already a goofball. Drinking doesn't make you any smarter. He'd always known Lily was clingy, but she was usually very reserved. A little alcohol, and all pretense was gone. She was holding on and not letting go. And it was only 4 glasses of beer. Even if the glasses at the karaoke bar were big, it was probably less than 2 bottles. Lucas had always believed that 3-drink lightweights existed. He just never thought he'd actually meet one, let alone that she would be his girlfriend. A few moments later, he finally found a key and opened the door. He carried Lily to the bed in the dark, then flicked on the bedroom light. The light flickered twice before staying on, casting the room in a bright, white glow. He glanced over and saw Lily staring blankly at the ceiling, her long hair spread out on the bed like a flower. She was wearing a form-fitting black turtleneck and jeans. Lying flat like that, her legs stretched out, her slender figure was on full display. Combined with her dazed expression, it made Lucas swallow hard. He'd been supporting her all the way home and had just carried her to the bedroom. Lucas didn't have the energy to change clothes, so he just collapsed on the bed next to her for a moment. They both smelled faintly of alcohol, and a tipsy, intimate atmosphere quickly filled the room. He studied the lingering blush on her cheek, propped his chin on his hand, and raised an eyebrow. Let me interview you. How does it feel to be drunk for the first time? He didn't know what Lily was thinking, but he knew he was never letting this goofball touch alcohol again. She was cute when she was drunk, but being a lightweight meant her body didn't tolerate alcohol well, and her hangover would probably be worse than most people's. Lily turned her head to look at him, her eyes still for a moment before she said, I'm not drunk. I only had a few glasses. Of course. Every drunk person says that. It was winter now, but in the summer, if you walked past any outdoor patio at night, you were bound to see someone who could barely walk, still insisting they weren't drunk. So I'm really drunk? Lily suddenly looked shocked. A moment later, her slightly parted lips slowly closed, and the corners of her mouth turned down. Lucas was startled by her sudden change in expression. What's wrong? He asked quickly. Before he could ask again, Lily rolled over and hugged him. I suddenly feel so useless. Why useless? Lucas was confused. I can't hold my liquor, so I can't be like Vanessa and take drinks from my boyfriend. And I'm shy, and I'm so bad with words, I can't go to work events with my boyfriend like she can. The things Vanessa does so easily, I can't do any of them. Lucas gently took her hand. What's wrong with that? Not being good at socializing isn't something to be ashamed of. Lucas, I'm really not afraid of being embarrassed, and I'm not afraid of people laughing at me. But when they say hi to me and I can't even say a word back, it's your reputation that I'm embarrassing. That's what I'm most afraid of. Lily mumbled lucidly. She paused, then just said in a heavy, red-eyed voice, I'm sorry. Perhaps because she was drunk, Lily's emotions were all over the place. Lucas was stunned for a moment, then reached out and gently brushed the stray hairs from her cheek, tucking them behind her ear. It's okay. Everyone has things they can't do. The things they're not good at. I'll just have to work harder to be more capable, and you're already a perfect girlfriend. If you didn't have any flaws, I wouldn't even be worthy of you, would I? He gave a small smile, then joked, then you'd really be the kind of girlfriend I couldn't even dream up. The pressure would be immense. I'd probably spend every day wondering if I was dreaming. I'm not that good, Lily mumbled. You're the most perfect version of yourself in my eyes right now. Really? Lucas gallantly placed a kiss on the back of her hand. You are a fantasy-level girlfriend. I'm very happy. No wonder this goofball had suddenly insisted on drinking earlier. And even though it clearly made her uncomfortable, she wouldn't be dissuaded. So this was the reason. He gazed at Lily's downcast eyes, his thoughts growing more complex. Was this goofball determined to make him die of sheer emotion? What had Lucas Carter ever done to deserve this? You little crybaby. He pinched her soft cheek, wiping away the single tear that had escaped. Are you dizzy? Lucas suddenly smirked. He wasn't sure if other girls were made of water, but Lily certainly was. Since they'd gotten together, not only did she smile more, but she cried more easily, too, as if she was letting out all the tears she'd held back for years. He wondered if she'd still be like this if they ever had kids. Lily reached up and touched her forehead, blinking blankly. I wasn't dizzy before, but now that you mention it, my head is spinning. Lucas chuckled foolishly. I'll get you some hot water. Don't fall asleep, okay? You'll feel terrible when you wake up tomorrow. He just stood up when he was forcefully pulled back. He turned to see Lily clinging to the hem of his shirt. Don't go. I'm not going anywhere. I'm just getting you some hot water, and I'll be right back. Still, don't go. Lily seemed to have suddenly switched personalities. She whined and acted cute. Seeing Lucas still standing by the bed, she sat up with a huff and lifted his chin with her fingertip. You really want to go out? Lucas thought. I'm going out to get you hot water. What do you mean, don't want to go out? And also, how many forms do you have when you're drunk? Even Ultraman Tiga only had 3. Looking at Lily's imperious expression, he couldn't help but smile, playing along. That's right. I want to go out. The words had barely left his mouth when he was suddenly pushed. His back hit the wall, and he froze. Then he saw Lily's arm braced against the wall next to his head, and he froze even more. He stared at the girl before him, a triumphant smirk on her face. His own mouth twitched, his eyes filled with a mixture of shame and indignation. Lily Thompson, you, a mere goofy frog, dare to wall slam me. Lucas, you're not being a good boy today, Lily said, pouting. She turned her head and let out a tiny, secret burp, then turned back as if nothing had happened. Behave, or I'll kiss you. Lucas let out a long sigh. You'll regret this. Wasn't she just crying her eyes out a minute ago? How was she suddenly pinning him to a wall? Lily smiled and stood on her toes, leaning closer. Her warm breath washed over his face, making him itch. The heat spread through his body, finally settling low in his... He couldn't help but swallow. She could be soft, and she could be dominant. What kind of goddess was his girlfriend? Do you always feel like... It's embarrassing when you can't get the upper hand, when I make you blush. The girl poked his cheek like it was a balloon. Her fingertip then slid down from his cheek, over his neck, and came to rest on his chest, feeling his heartbeat. His heart, the traitor, was already pounding. Lucas had no choice but to admit it. Maybe a little. Why? Lily looked up at him, defiant. Lucas shrugged, trying to hold back a laugh. Because you're a goofball. How could I, the great Lucas Carter, lose to you? Lily punched him lightly on the chest. Even drunk, she couldn't bring herself to use any force. You're not supposed to be able to win against me, Lucas said, looking at her with confusion. Why not? I might not be as smart as you, and I can't just come up with sweet nothings on the spot. Lily's eyes were downcast, looking hazy. She slowly brought her lips to his ear and whispered, like sharing a secret. But you have no idea how hard I've worked to make you happy. After she finished, the girl rubbed her forehead and slowly walked back to the bed. Why'd you stop halfway through the wall slam? Lucas asked, curious. He was just starting to like it. Why did this goofball suddenly stop playing? Dizzy. Lily mumbled, lying back down on the bed and curling into a ball like a kitten. If this goofball were Ultraman, her chest light would be flashing red by now. Her dominant phase had only lasted a few minutes. Lucas sighed, a mixture of amusement and exasperation, and walked out of the bedroom. He remembered that night he'd gone out drinking. Lily had come looking for him with a thermos of honey water. She must have bought honey. He checked the kitchen, and sure enough, there was still a jar in the cabinet, untouched. A few minutes later, he came back with a glass of warm honey water. Plain water was fine, but this would definitely be easier to swallow. Lucas sat on the edge of the bed and held the spoon to her lips. Open up. Ah. Lily pressed her lips together and shook her head. I don't want water. It's honey water. It's sweet. No. As she spoke, she burrowed deeper into his arms. You won't drink it even when your boyfriend is feeding you. Lucas blew on the steaming cup and threatened in a low voice, if you don't drink this, I'm going to feed it to you with my mouth. Lily shot up like a rocket. Okay. Lucas, ? He felt like Lily shouldn't be playing a tank character in a game. She should be playing Silas from League of Legends. She was stealing his moves at lightning speed. Every trick he'd used to take advantage of her since they met. This goofball had probably learned them all. Drunk people needed to drink a lot of water to help their metabolism. After trying to coax her for ages with no success, Lucas had no choice. He took a mouthful of honey water and cupped the girl's warm face in his hands. Your tongue is sweet, Lily said, licking her lips. Not as sweet. It was a small glass, maybe 10 ounces of honey water, but it took Lily forever to finish it. And with him feeding it to her mouth, it was hard to say who ended up drinking more. After the ordeal was finally over, Lucas checked his phone. It was 11:40. He looked back at the girl sitting cross-legged on the bed, smiling at him, and felt a headache coming on. Go stand by the wall. I'm actually not done wall slamming you yet, Lily mumbled. Lucas couldn't take it anymore. He crossed the room in 3 strides, pushed the girl onto the bed, and pinned her hands above her head. Have you learned your lesson? Lily struggled for a moment, but seeing that her hands were truly pinned, she still. She just stared at him wordlessly, then tilted her head up and began to lightly suck on his Adam's apple. The sudden tickling sensation sent a shiver through him. He quickly freed one hand to pinch her cheeks. Looking at her mouth, now puckered into an O, he took a deep breath. He couldn't mess around anymore. This goofball had lost all reason. If he was the only sober one, he wasn't sure he could stop himself. I'm gonna go wash up. You change your clothes. It's time for bed, he said, getting up. When he came back from the bathroom, dressed in his pajamas, Lily was already asleep. Her delicate body rose and fell with her even breaths. She looked like she was sleeping soundly. You should change before you sleep, he said, gently shaking her shoulder. My head hurts. I don't want to move. Lily mumbled, still half asleep. She rolled over, her brow furrowed tightly. Lucas thought for a moment, then asked, should I help you change? The girl shook her head again. Don't want to move, but you're still wearing jeans. Won't that be uncomfortable to sleep in? It is. Lucas didn't want to talk anymore. Any conversation with the current Lily was pointless. He'd already seen her underwear when he did her laundry. If she didn't want to change into pajamas, fine. At least her sweater was off. Having made up his mind, Lucas silently leaned over the girl and slowly lifted her shirt. Aside from nearly losing his composure at the sight of her waist and navel, the turtleneck came off easily. Lily even cooperated by lifting her head a little. The jeans were not as easy. Don't. As soon as his hand touched the zipper, Lily groggily grabbed it. Lucas, don't, she said, almost pleading. I'm not doing anything bad. The more Lucas thought about it, the angrier he got. He had to silently chant, I am a gentleman, countless times before he finally managed to get her clothes off and toss them into the laundry basket in the bathroom. But as soon as he turned off the bedroom light and got into bed, the noise woke Lily up. She suddenly became energetic, pressing her entire body against him. Hug, she cooed. Lucas was about to hug her back when his hand brushed against her bare back. He then remembered this goofball wasn't wearing any pajamas. He tried to move away, but Lily's leg suddenly came over, wrapping around him like an octopus. Lucas couldn't stop himself from stroking her thigh. Lily still didn't react. Was this goofball doing this on purpose? Where did you hide that box of things my mom gave you? He asked, his face stern. Lily's increasingly fuzzy brain seemed to clear for a moment. She shook her head frantically. Not now. Lucas. All right, good thing he asked. He sucked in a sharp breath and groaned. Lily, no, my dear sister. I'm begging you. Please, have mercy on me. Don't let me make a mistake I'll regret for the rest of my life. Okay? If he really did something now, Lily probably wouldn't resist. And afterwards, she wouldn't have the heart to blame him. They would most likely just tacitly accept that it had happened. But Lily wouldn't be completely happy about it. After all, she had said no. He didn't need to needlessly plant a thorn in her heart. Since Lily wasn't willing, he would wait. Just like he always had. He, the great Master Carter, had plenty of patience. Lucas had just managed to steady his resolve when Lily, whom he had just pushed away, hugged him again. He angrily pinned the girl beneath him. You asked for this. Lily didn't react. She was still sound asleep. A moment later, in the silent room, he was the only one awake, tightly held by the sleeping girl, staring blankly into the darkness, unable to fall asleep. The next morning, Lucas opened his eyes to find Lily already dressed in her pajamas, hugging her knees, looking terrified. She seemed to be trying very hard to remember what had happened last night. In her hand was the box of condoms Emily Carter had given them. Lily looked down at the intact packaging, her expression growing blank, her face paling. Stop overthinking it. I didn't do anything, Lucas said, annoyed by the sight of her pale face. Do you really think I'm that kind of person? He didn't even want to remember how he had survived last night. At this point, not even Hamlet himself knew his own soliloquy better than he did. Lily finally let out a sigh of relief. Are you ever drinking again? Lucas asked, sitting up. And no more. You know, you didn't just find yourself a boyfriend, Lucas said, getting out of bed with huge dark circles under his eyes, his voice full of indignation. He walked to the bathroom to wash up, but before he closed the door, he turned back and shouted, You found yourself a saint. Hey, I didn't mean to yell at you. I just haven't woken up yet, Lucas said a few moments later, running back with a mouthful of toothpaste foam to explain himself. Then he froze. Lily was once again wearing that sailor uniform. Below the extremely short skirt were her slender legs, wrapped in white over the knee socks. Her toes were curled together in nervousness, causing the fabric to wrinkle slightly. She bit her lip and looked away, her fingers tightly clutching the hem of her skirt. Her voice trembled violently. Even though, that kind of thing has to wait. Oh, other things are okay. I might not have learned how yet, but if you like it, I'm willing to try. Lucas's gaze was fixed on the girl's long, straight legs. It didn't move. This time, he had no intention of defending himself. His rational mind was screaming at him to quickly deny it, to say that he didn't like it at all, that he didn't have a foot fetish or store those kinds of movies on his computer, all to save his lifelong reputation as the great Master Carter. And then his rational mind was dragged into a dark alley and beaten senseless.